Day 7. It was the next morning, with no uniform to change out of, and nothing to get up for. Most of the class were having a strange old time of things, especially poor Archibald, who kept looking at his watch and muttering about what class we should all be in. Robin and I had become so irritated by this that we had gone outside to sit on the ground near Woolworth's ward cabin, enjoying the freedom of having no classroom bells, while Robin lazily pulled 14-petal flowers out of the grass and made a daisy chain. "He loves me," she sang as she was doing it, more to herself than anything. "He loves me not. He loves me. He loves me not."
"Who doesn't love you, Robin?" asked Lando, walking outside. "Let me give him a piece of my mind. You're as well as any other species. Why?"
Oh no, said Robin. "It's just an earth custom. I used to do it with my friends. It's the flower petals, you see. They dictate whether someone is in love with you or not."
"Someone in love with you or not?"
said Bettina, walking out.
"Well, maybe it's just not good enough for you. Sisters together."
"Oh," explained Robin, "no, it's some dumb earth poem. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just a saying. He loves me not. Then you pull the petals out like this, see?"
"Yeah, right,"
said Hermione.
"Who's going to love you? No offence,"
she said quickly.
"I mean, let's face it, who's going to love any of us? We're the ragtag scrap of the universe."
"Everybody loves somebody," said Lando. "Why not us?"
"No," said Robin. "I don't think you understand. You see, there isn't an actual person. You just say, 'He loves me.'"
"How big is his larder?"
asked XXXX, sticking his head out the door.
"That's how we tell how deep someone's love is for someone else. How much room will make on their shelf for you?"
"Oh," blushed Robin. "I wasn't thinking of anyone in particular. It's just an earth thing." She went back to her flowers. "He loves me. He loves me not."
"You say that a lot,"
said Margaret.
"Stop."
"I'll be finished soon," said Robin. "I just need to get to the end. He loves me."
"How romantic,"
said Elfrida.
"You dark Archibald, Robin, keeping secrets from us. Tell us all about him. Is he big and handsome? Does he have diamonds and a titanium frame?"
"No," sighed Robin, "he's imaginary. I'm beginning to wish I never started this now. I suppose I only have 2 petals to go and it would be unlucky to stop. He loves me."
"Romance scary. Dating scary. Commitment scary,"
said Jake. Then he thought for a moment.
"And again, loneliness scary. Isolation scary. Dying alone with no family around you. Very scary."
"No," said Robin, pulling Jake out from under a shirt where he just burrowed. "I didn't mean that. Look, see, it's a song. I've only got 1 petal left now. It's going to decide whether he loves me or not. There, you see, he doesn't."
"Who doesn't love you?"
asked Archelaus, coming outside. "This imaginary person I've just invented, and I spent the past 5 minutes pulling petals off flowers over to discover secret signs to find out their feelings for me."
Humans. So illogical. Fuck.
Archelaus pressed a button and rolled his eyes. Woo put her head out the door, blotchy at her ankles.
"Children, so this is where you are. A good idea going outside and getting some sun. It's good for the digestion." "Yes," said Bettina. "Penguin was just damaging the grass and telling us about her love life."
Woo clapped her hands.
"Oh, perfectly. Alien. Or is it just something you made up yourself, dear?"
Robin glared at her. "No, seriously, it is a human thing. All my friends used to do it."
"Anyway,"
said Woo, cutting in,
"it's time I rushed out and got you your blood samples. They should be ready by now, and then do some extra foosball training on my way back. I'm sorry to run out on you like this and leave you alone after all you've been through, but I really need to do this, and I won't be long. You're free to stay here till I get back. You'll be quite safe. Help yourself to food, there's masses of it. I shall have plenty of time to think what to do about everything we talked about last night too, and we can decide tonight."
"Oh," said Lando, "where are you going? Maybe we could help." Woo said,
"It will probably sound daft to you off-worlders, but we train for the Olympics by rolling round food down a hill and running after it while trying to catch it. Have you ever heard of anything so daft in all your life, eh?"
"Oh, I do," said Robin excitedly. "In the village where I come from on Earth, we used to have a cheese rolling competition down a hill every year. Everyone ended up in an awful tangle at the bottom."
"Cheese rolling?"
said Woo aghast.
"That's just silly. We Doosbury Giants use sensible foodstuffs, like cakes and pizzas. A cheese, though, that's just nuts."
She suddenly thought of something.
"Nuts, like training barbells."
Reaching up to the hat stand near the door, she took a device from the top and lifted it up to her mouth to nibble.
I do this every morning.
she said between bites.
They help build up my muscles, both inside and out.
We'll carry for you, said Lando. None of us wanted our only lifeline to be out of our sight. We were used to being round adults for protection, even when we had no notion of protecting us, and this adult was more comforting than any we'd been around for a very long time. Woowa smiled.
That's kind of you, but... Well, I don't want to alarm you, but I'm worried. If that teacher and headmaster of yours are still hanging around, it would be awful if they got hold of you. Much better, I think, that you hide yourselves away here. Just for a little bit, while we decide what to do.
Ensconce inside again? Oh, nuts, I want to be free,
said Bettina. Woowa reached out with the barbells to offer some, but the Belobrat shook her head.
Not that kind of nuts. I really wanted to go out and see more of the Olympics today. Some freedom this is, escaping Orpheus, only to end up stuck inside another 4 walls instead.
I'm sorry,
said Woowa.
Really I am, but, well, we need to sort all this. And somebody has to take care of you. I'm not sure I can. I mean, I'm too young to do more than look after myself. Besides, I only know how to run really fast and hit things.
Time to get ready for school,
said Archelaus, consulting his watch. But nobody was listening.
Why?
Said Hermione.
We don't need to be ensconced out of harm's way. We're not little kids. We're big enough to look after ourselves.
She sighed.
Mostly because no one else ever looks after us.
You are amazing children and you don't need anyone,
smiled Woowa.
But there's no point in taking any unnecessary risks. I want you to live to grow into being amazing adults. Just stay here this morning, and then in the afternoon when I'm finished, I'll go with you to see the Olympic Park and maybe pay a visit to the intergalactic president as well. I'm sure he'll know what to do.
Oh,
snorted Hermione.
Him? We've met him, hiding under a table. Fuck what a good he is. He's no intergalactic president Elrond, is he?
You ought to see someone,
said Woowa thoughtfully, putting on a pork pie hat.
And he's the one with the power to stop things. We ought to start at the top. Perhaps I should see him alone when I'm out. Now, this is very important. When I go out the front door, I shall lock it. Don't let anyone in unless you know them. I'll be as quick as I can, and I always keep my promises.
She left, then thought better of it and put her head back round the door again.
Have fun, everyone. Oh, and remember the Doosbury Olympic motto. Breathe, heave, believe, cream cheese.
Whistling the tune from a Doosbury's food commercial, she turned the key in the lock and walked off.
I have an uneasy feeling about this,
said Hermione.
Something always goes wrong whenever we trust an adult and lose control.
Not always, said Lando. Woowa is on our side. Sometimes adults know best, you know.
Hermione rolled her eyes.
Yeah, emphasis on sometimes.
First bell for first period, everyone,
said Archelaus.
I can't believe what happened yesterday.
Squeaked Jake, still rolled up into a ball.
People were actually shooting at us.
It was like being in one of Mrs. Maggrump's lessons, said Lando. Shots ringing out at us from everywhere, not knowing who'd take a direct hit next.
Let's never leave this cozy little house again,
nodded Jake.
Oh no,
said Bettina.
That's what we want us to think. I'm not going to relinquish my freedom that easily. Yeah,
said Hermione.
We've been in college too much. Once that Doosbury comes back, you won't see my tail feathers for dust.
here is warm and cozy and safe,
said Jake.
Plus there's food,
added XXXX.
I said first bell for first period, everyone,
added Archelaus.
Look here,
said Bettina.
Let's not talk about it anymore. What do we do while we're cooped up all day?
Trip the larder.
said XXXX, getting up.
Milkshakes.
He came back handing them round.
After that,
she said, slurping through 3 straws at once. I know, offered Robin. Let's get our sticker books and see which athletes we're missing signatures for. We might be able to get more autographs later. Soon there were 10 different Olympic sticker books on the floor, and one political sticker book that Elfrida had a nose in, flying alone to the top of the ceiling. I'm still collecting autographs of squash, said Lando, for when he gets better.
last bell for first period,
said Archelaus.
oh Archie,
She spluttered Bettina.
nobody cares. That was our old life. It's over now. We don't need to keep to timetables anymore.
No,
He said.
I know, it's just hard to adjust.
And you don't have to write anymore, Colin.
said Bettina, calling over to me.
We're not at school.
I wrote back on a slip of paper and handed it to her. I don't do this for fun. I do this for fun.
For fun?
Bettina shuddered.
Writing? Outside school hours? I'll never understand Camalosians. We thought you were just shy.
About 2, I wrote back. I don't really like attention. Talking of which, can we talk about something else now? Bettina shrugged.
We've been double maths now.
Said Archelaus.
Oh, how I miss it.
Bettina was close to exploding again. Instead it was Lando who interrupted. Hey Archie, he said. My cards are in an awful mess. Could you do your thing and sort them out for me, please?
Of course.
Said the Mekkion.
In what ordering system would you like?
Size of hat, please, said Lando. The Mekkion's arm moved at lightning speed as he took all the Clandusprod's cards, shuffled them, laid them out on the bench, and put them back in order. Phew, he said, puffed and looked at his watch.
Break time.
Are you all right? Robin asked the Mekkion quietly, who was now busy sorting out his nuts and bolts drawer. You seem oddly anxious for a Mekkion. We could make up our own little routine if you wanted, just you and me. We could pretend we were still at school and doing normal things. Archelaus looked up at her and grinned.
Thank you. That would be nice. I suppose you'll think I'm a silly Mekkion. It's just that routines make me feel safe and content, as if I know exactly what I'm doing. Unexpected events can be so unexpected.
Robin was clearly thinking about her own experiences with a faraway look in her eyes. I can relate, she said. Too many bad things can happen when you're not looking. Sometimes even when you are.
Exactly,
said Archelaus, cheering up.
All I want is a bit of stability and order in the chaos. No one else really understands it. Well, I think Colin does a little bit, all that being thorough. We have a lot in common. Maybe Elfrida intellectually. That's all different to actually experiencing it though.
I understand, Robin said, suddenly looking much older than her 10.5 years. The more prepared for the worst outcomes you are, the less they'll take you by surprise and unsettle you. The others are a bit more free-range than us, but we prefer the cages.
Oh, Archie,
said Bettina.
We don't need routines. Just think of it. Our plan worked. In a roundabout way, we're free.
Mekkion sobbed.
Freedom is just another way of saying endless possibilities with each have their own undetermined element of uncertainty leading to choice and regret. I can't help but wonder if I'm straight back off in the cage.
For some people, cages are freedom, and for others, freedom is a cage.
Called down Elfrida, looking down from her book. Robin replied next. Come on, Archie, it's not that bad. We will have new routines in time, and whole new rotas and timetables to learn. We still have our storytelling one after all. Oh, and Woo-Woo will probably need some help with the washing up soon. We could really use your mechanical know-how for that. She peered in the kitchen. A lot of help with the washing up. That sandwich is as big as you, XXXX. You can't eat all that, surely. But he did. Archelaus seemed to cheer up at this.
I'm going to write a whole new timetable and washing up rota out now,
He said.
just in case.
He borrowed my pens. I only gave him my 64th best, though, as he got rust on the last one I lent him. You know, said Robin uncomfortably, it's now late afternoon, and Woo-Woo said she'd be back by lunchtime. The Doosbury Giant is never late for lunch, so you tell me. Where can she be?
I was thinking the same thing,
Said Bettina.
There's not much we can do about it anyway, being locked up in here. We just have to hope that she's been delayed and we'll be back soon to open the door.
Oh, great.
Said Hermione.
Another adult who abandoned us. So much for breathe cream cheese and teeth or whatever guff she told us. More like breathe, believe and leave. She wouldn't abandon us.
Said XXXX.
I know she wouldn't. She's perfect. Like a 10-layered sundae that comes with chocolate sauce, strawberries, marshmallows and a cherry on top. All the good things together.
Ooh, said Hermione shrilly.
Somebody's in love. No, I'm not. Not in the slightest.
Said XXXX, turning red, and he went into the kitchen to comfort eat large helpings of ice cream. I believe her, said Lando. It's good to trust from time to time. We're just out of the habit of it, that's all.
But think about it.
Said Hermione, waving her wings and causing a cascade of feathers to flutter to the floor.
Every time we trust an adult, it always goes wrong. Let's face it, none of them care about us, none of them at all. Woo-Woo is just another parent figure who's run out on us and left us to starve.
XXXX walked out with a crate of chocolate chip ice cream.
What an amazing kitchen.
He says.
Every cupboard is full, and it tastes so much better than the food on Orpheus. There's even a calorie counter that says I need to eat more calories to take part in my sports event. I don't want to disappoint it by saying I'm not competing in one.
Bettina raised all her eyes.
I meant it metaphorically.
Hermione sniffed.
It should be time for lectures now,
Said Archelaus, pacing up and down.
Even so, you have a point, Penguin.
Said Bettina.
Let's give Woowa another hour or so, and then we'll see if we can find her.
The children all went back to their activities, and I went back to sorting out my notes.
What you doing, Elfrida?
Asked Archelaus, who'd done the washing up in a record 4.46 minutes and was still restless with no routine to keep him occupied.
Why reading?
Said the Mrasianart, flying down from a post to show the Mekkion her book. Jack and the Beanstalk, exponential growth of spiritual photosynthesis in a modern capitalistic vacuum. She seemed, dare I say it, more like a child than I had ever seen her before, as if removing all structure had made her embrace a childish side, now that she didn't have any responsibilities anymore, just as the rest of us were striving to become more grown up.
Reading? For fun?
Asked Bettina.
On a non-school night? You're worse than a Camalosian.
Books exist outside lessons, you know.
Said Elfrida.
They help give me a sense of stability and help me reconnect with my parent world of Mars. I'm glad I took so many with me when I left, and that Archelaus was kind enough to give me a spare dimensionally transcendental bag to keep them in.
Bettina shrugged.
Too many words for me. You're just not normal.
Thank you.
Beamed Elfrida, mistaking it for a compliment. Lando smiled. I think we could all do with a dose of Mrasianart spirituality about now, Elfrida. Anything you can pass on about some deeper meaning behind life. But to his horror, he found the Mrasianart struggling not to cry. What is it? He said, rushing forward, but Archelaus beat him to it by extending his long arms from the other side of the room for a hug.
Oh, I don't know.
She said.
Just everything. It's really got to me tonight. The state of the universe, the state of our school, the state of me. It feels as if none of us have a future really anymore. The bad guys always win, and if you don't, they'll sure shout about it, you know. I just watch for news, or I watch us, or I watch for Sky, and they all seem black, deserted, as if there's nobody there to help us.
Maybe no one is there.
Started Hermione, but she was shushed by Lando. But that's not a very Mrasianart thing to say, he said. You're the one who's always telling us about karma and helping us put our lives in perspective.
Not anymore.
She sighed.
Things keep getting worse and worse, and I feel powerless to stop it.
She looked up guiltily.
You all have your own crosses to bear, and I don't want to add to them. But the longer I spend away from home, the more that I worry that what I was taught in my school was wrong. There's nobody out there with some grand plan, that we've been abandoned to our fate with nobody there to save us. The longer I spend away from home, the more I learn to think for myself. And that's not always good for a Mrasianart. Our thoughts can be very dark, but my instinct has an awful sense of foreboding. Where is that Doosbury Giant?
Break time!
Archelaus said out loud.
Oh, Archie,
Exploded Bettina.
not now. Go out and play or something.
Well, that's not true, said Lando, his big eyes opening wide. You're not alone, Elfrida. We're there for each other.
Yes, said
Elfrida.
But how far has all we've gone through got us, really? And we know a lot wrong. Maybe another adult that's let us down and possibly betrayed us. It seems like all growing up is swapping one entrapment for another. How are we going to fend for ourselves then, eh? In the Doosbury Giant kitchen we'll stop providing stuff eventually, once the food runs down and the Olympics are over.
XXX's jaws dropped, losing the spoon that was with it.
Oh, would never. I don't want to say it. Russian food.
He said, horrified.
Oh, really?
Asked Elfrida.
And tell me this, my podgy pal. When's very best before date on the replicator in the kitchen? I clocked it when we first came in. It ends tomorrow night when the Olympics do.
XXXX rushed back in to see it and broke into tears. She'll come back, said Lando, putting his arms around him. I know she will, and there's 2 days' food there.
2 days won't get us far,
Said Bettina.
This is serious. When we go out looking for wool, we ought to look out for a job as well. Where do grown-ups get them anyway?
Everyone shrugged. From my experience, most people work for their parents, said Robin. They moan about people who are unemployed because of how easy it is to find work.
Well, it doesn't work for us, does it?
Hermione rolled her eyes.
Our parents are either dead or have abandoned us. Unless we get a job as gravediggers, the family job thing isn't going to work for us.
It needs to be a job we can all do together, preferably, said Lando. That's where our strengths lie, and we can make money for all of us in one go. Any ideas? But we all shook our heads.
I can't think of anything we could all do.
Said Elfrida.
It's hopeless.
We help each other, said Lando. That's what we do best. Maybe we should help other people.
Oh,
Said Hermione. We all nodded.
jobs don't grow on trees, even the lumberjacks. Well,
Sighed Bettina.
nothing we can do about it now. Let's just get on with what we were doing. Give it another hour, and we'll have to try and force the door.
I'll spell for next lesson.
Used Archelaus. Oh, I have a trick for that, laughed Robin. Can I borrow your book, Elfrida? Mrasianart handed it over to Robin, who also borrowed one of my pencils, and spent the next few minutes fiddling with the front door, while Elfrida went to help Archelaus sort the last remaining trading cards, and most of us looked on. I went back to what we were doing. Said Archelaus as he shuffled at high speed, and a card flew across the room,
This one.
and he wheeled himself off to the yard to gather a card back that had fallen outside.
Ooh,
He said,
conkers.
Same to you.
said Hermione back to him, snapping on Woolworth's sofa.
No, seriously.
Replied Archelaus.
I don't need to pick the best ones, and we can have a game later. It will all be good, casual, informal, unstructured fun with oodles of complicated rules. Just what we all need. Something fun and silly and uncompetitive. I'll just get my ruler, my weights, and my litmus paper to test which one has the best integration and the toughest outside.
You take the fun out of everything.
Shot back Hermione sleepily.
Hey,
Said Bettina, looking up.
where is everyone? I thought we were meant to be communing.
Most people really were off in their own little world. Hermione was napping, XXXX was eating, Elfrida was reading a second book she had got out of somewhere, I was writing, Jake was curled up into a ball squeaking happily away to himself, Margalo was looking at herself in the mirror, Robin was busy with the door and using lots of naughty human swear words she wasn't supposed to know, and Archelaus was goodness knows where.
I almost miss Orpheus.
Bettina to Lando and Robin, who were the only two listening.
At least it was communal, if horrible. We were all together doing the same thing. Without it, it just feels as if we were 11 different people again. Shared experiences, and all that.
Oh, I don't know, said Lando. We've been through a lot together, and nothing would change that. It makes sense that, given their freedom for the first time in weeks or months, everyone wants to do their own thing, rather than the same thing.
We're dunder-headed Doosbury dodging cards.
Exploded Bettina.
It's not so fun on your own.
I know what you mean, said Robin from the door. I like being with people. I grew up in such a small village that there was never anybody around whenever I wanted to play. It's nice having ready-made friends I get to hang out with,
Exactly.
said Bettina, lowering her voice.
I've noticed that we feel differently to the rest of them. The others will be alright wherever they ended up. Well, everyone except Niglo, but that's her lookout for being a nuppety Maggrumph. We three, though, we're all social species. We need to be surrounded by our own kind, or we'd go mad. At least I would. I miss having all the Belobrats to tell me I'm special, by them telling me that they're special.
You are special, said Lando. Yeah, said Hermione sleepily from the sofa.
Special needs? Ow!
She added when a seat cushion was flung halfway across the room and hit her squarely on the beak.
Will they
Said Archelaus.
laugh back?
No, said Lando. I mean, you are special, Bettina. To us, I mean. We would never have got here without your leadership.
Really?
Said the Belobrat, surprised.
You don't find me bossy?
Someone has to be. Robin shrugged her shoulders. As long as you don't make us do stuff we don't want to do. I did hear Belobrats are like that,
It's true,
said Bettina ruefully.
but I can have a chip on my shoulder. All of us do. Belobrats have lots of shoulders, after all. Being amongst you lot has really rubbed off the square edges, though. I don't get as worked up anymore about things since knowing you. You've been good for me. I still think I'm the best, but you're the best too.
Oh, good, said Lando, matching cards. I mean, I know there's a lot to get worked up about, but you've changed a lot from the stroppy, self-obsessed Belobrat I met when you first came to Orpheus. I like both yous, but I like this open and kind one a lot more.
Respect?
Said Bettina.
That feels weird, but good weird.
As far as I'm concerned, said Robin, I think you're great. I think we're all great. I think all of us together are really great. I love the way we are always looking out for each other. I never had that before. Lando opened his mouth to say something, but then realised something else. Talking of which, Archelaus has been gone a long time, he said. Do you think he's all right?
Oh dear.
Yes, said Elfrida, putting the book down.
What another person going missing. Ensconce brilliant he may be, Lord, a little handsome, but emotionally that Mekkion's awfully young for his age. You'd better go find him.
I had been keeping an eye on Archelaus myself. Luckily my eyes are the sort that swivel round so you can see more than one thing at once. I decided to put what was happening out of the corner of my eye onto my subsidiary claw for noting and reading through later, when things had calmed down with my main writing hand. Archelaus was happily gathering conkers and testing them for impurities when he saw Jack the Clandusprod salesman peeking through a gap in the fence. "Psst," said the Clandusprod.
What's the matter?
Asked the Mekkion.
Have you burst a tyre? I've got a puncture repair kit on me somewhere.
No, he said. I'm not a Mekkion. I don't have wheels, and I'm the one peddling the cures here, matey. Aren't you one of the school kids who went missing?
Yes,
Said Archelaus without thinking. We've been missing you all, said the Clandusprod.
Who?
Asked Archelaus. Me and the boys, back at the Red Weed Depot, said the Clandusprod. There's Basher Bill. No way he died. Sinister Sid. No way he's a goner. Dead-Eye Dick. No way he's at home because his remaining eye fell out. Crusher Thompson. No way I'm going to her funeral next week. Anyway, there's a high turnover of staff. I don't know all their names, but they all wanted to meet you before they died. You're famous and perfectly safe. Don't look so worried.
Asked
Archelaus.
famous? Why?
Of course, said Jack. You're celebrities, all of you. You're cured, you are. Just think of all those problems you had when you first came to Orpheus, when you were the most feeble-minded bunch of kids I ever saw. And now, because of us and what we slipped you, you're strong and powerful. I mean, it stands to reason, doesn't it? Every puppet made to be strong and independent turns on their masters. It's a sign things are working.
It is,
Said Archelaus, struggling to follow the logic. Sure, laughed Jack. I mean, you really showed the moves back on Orpheus, didn't you? It's a perfect advert for your good health, which will make our advert perfect. Come with me, boy, and I'll prove to you how popular you are. You can talk all about it to your many fans. You can fly back with us to Oceanus and talk about how much better you feel, and we'll give you lots of moolah for it. Sure as apples and pears are apples and pears.
Potions, ruler, apples and pears.
Asked Archelaus, checking his databanks for the word. Sure, Oceanus is the red weed manufacturing plant now. We moved on from Orpheus. It was too small. As for moolah, cash boy, gold, currency, Bunsen, pocket money. Archelaus's eyes opened wide.
But we do need money.
He said.
Will there be enough moolah for all of us to live?
Sure, laughed Jack. If you'll all come along, we'll all pay you, all of you. And how much? Well, let's just say you could have gold-encrusted spokes for your wheels if you want them. It's not hard work. You'll be back on this planet before you know it. Or we can wheel you anywhere you like. We could send you back to Mekkion.
Mekkion 6.
Breathed Archelaus, looking up at the stars and holding out his robotic arms.
I want to be amongst my people again.
We can get you there in seconds, boys, laughed the Clandusprod. Only it's not Mekkion 6 now. Your people moved to a whole new planet in another galaxy. Mekkion 7. With more technology than ever before. Bigger and better and bolder and brighter.
What do we need to do?
Asked Archelaus. Not much, said Jack. Just say a few words into a camera we ask you to say and smile. That's all. Remember Mekkion?
We could do that.
Nothing to it, laughed Jack, handing over a scrap of paper with his address on. Just bring all your friends along today. Or keep it a secret from them until you all arrive. It will be such a nice surprise when we find out how easy the job is.
I'll come,
Said Archelaus, stars in his eyes.
and I'll bring the others. Only we're locked in.
Jack's face fell. Oh, well, if you're going to be difficult,
Don't know,
said Archelaus.
I'll come. I'm sure the others will too when I tell them. As soon as the door's open.
Well, said Jack shiftily, I can't ask forever, sorry. And remember, don't tell the others. Leave it as a nice surprise. Just take them to this address, that's all you have to do. Archelaus looked up again.
We won't tell anyone from Orpheus about where we are. I don't want to get captured again.
The Clandusprod held up his podgy arms. Scout clan's honour. We just keep you all to ourselves. Just then 2 things happened simultaneously, causing me to write them down with 2 in my hands at once. In the distance, Robin yelled, "Done it!" as the front door swung open. Also, Elfrida made her way outside and asked Archelaus where he was, before noticing the Clandusprod peeping through the fence.
Who is that?
She asked, but Archelaus just pressed a button and shrugged his shoulders. The Clandusprod turned and ran. Archelaus smiled.
Don't worry, I've got the solution to all our problems. All you have to do is follow me.
Well done, Penguin,
said Bettina, slapping her on the back.
so much for being the clumsy one of the group.
That sort of fine motor skill is easy, said Robin. I don't have to be as accurate as I do when writing, or cutting, or cycling, or building models, or climbing through ventilation shafts. It's this thing in my head.
Yes, said
Bettina, waving at his.
Come on, gang, we've been cooped up here for too long. There's nobody outside shooting at us. Let's face it, if Woower isn't bad, there might be people round to get us any moment. First things first, though, let's go and get those blood samples back if Woower didn't give them. Then we'll have positive proof of what's going on. Or maybe we can give some more.
I rubbed my arm gingerly. It was all right for Bettina to suggest that. She had 3 arms to choose from. We only had 2.
Bettina,
said Archelaus, all excited, and waving the bit of paper Jack had given him in our faces.
listen, don't ask me how I got it, but I think I've got the solution to our money problems. It's at this address, and... Oh dear.
He froze mid-sentence as he blew another emotional gasket, and had to slowly put another into his chest.
Hessian coloured hang-gliding Habridats, what are you blabbering about, Rover boy? Let's get on,
cried Bettina, leaving Lando to look after him, stuffing the paper he'd been given in his pocket. We all trooped to the Olympic village, careful to stay under the trees so we couldn't be seen. We called into the Olympic medical office and politely asked for the blood results, but they refused to serve us.
You are not Olympic athletes?
Snipped Belobrat on reception.
No service is open to outsiders, especially children outsiders. It's under Woower's name,
said Bettina helplessly.
She asked us to collect them for her. Unlikely story,
said the Belobrat.
They've already been checked out, it says here, by her. So she did collect them,
said Bettina.
Does that mean she took them straight to the Red Weed people?
Asked Hermione with a sinking feeling.
Did she betray us?
No.
XXXX stamped his foot, making the floor rattle beneath him.
I won't believe it. I won't.
He looked at us, pained.
It's giving me an empty feeling in my tummy. Another good one I can fill up, like hunger.
What were the results? Asked Robin. Did it say? But the Belobrat refused to tell us.
That's private, confidential,
He said.
Private?
Asked Bettina.
That happened to be our blood. If you look at the form, you'll see it's from 9 different species. It's clearly ours.
The Belobrat official sniffed.
I don't care if it was blood of a Dalai Archibald. I can't tell you, it's confidential. Not clear off.
Dejectedly we trooped outside, where we noticed a familiar face from Woower's Olympic team. Maybe Woower had just got so engrossed in the training which she had forgotten us.
Excuse me?
Elfrida asked politely of the Doosbury Giant coach.
We're looking for Woower.
Good, have you seen her?
He said.
Quick, where is she? Tell me, we need her.
We don't know,
stammered Elfrida.
We were hoping you did. She was coming here when she left us.
She never turned up,
said the Doosbury Giant, introducing himself as QQQ.
She's our star foosball player. We're no good without her. And that should have started by now. We got special dispensation from the Olympic Committee for one match to go on last, but we wait for her. But we won't have help forever. The closing ceremony is only in a few days' time.
We told him a shortened version of our story. He said, crunching on the sausage roll.
This sounds serious. I thought she just got cold feet.
You mean she got nervous? Asked Robin.
No.
The Doosbury blinked.
She got cold feet, I told you. It's a condition Doosbury Giants get sometimes on planets when the sun is far away. Doosburys are used to being warm on gas giant planets.
Then she might need our help even more, said Lando.
I'll say, this is serious.
Sputtered in Bettina.
We don't know where to stay without her. We need somebody.
She looked at the still malfunctioning Archelaus being wheeled into sight by Lando and Blotchy. Woower must have gone missing on her way here, said Robin. Maybe we can look for clues. Blotchy strained at his lead, currently carried by Lando.
What's the point?
Sighed Hermione.
She's gone. All on her own. Again. I say we look for John.
Nonsense, said Lando. Woower was our friend, and whether she's physically stuck or physically captured, she wouldn't just leave us. He looked around at our stony faces. Elfrida, he said, say something spiritual and heartwarming, please. But the Mrasianart just shrugged her wings helplessly.
Bad things happen to good people,
she sighed.
Without rhyme or reason. We ought to get used to it.
Wait, said Lando. I think Blotchy's trying to tell us something.
He's probably hungry again,
said Hermione.
I know I am.
The tummy rumbled. So did XXXXX's. The non-Doosbury Giants looked around in alarm at the loud noise. Well, I say we see what Blotchy's on about and follow him, said Lando.
No,
said Hermione, we
go look for a job so we can feed ourselves and pay for Squash's doctor's bills.
If only you all listen to me, we don't need to do either,
said Archelaus, slowly blinking back into life. Rescue.
Job!
Boy, I have a solution.
Blotchy.
Starvation.
I tell you, I know where we need to go.
She wouldn't walk out for us. She's an adult. She could totally walk out for us.
Will you please listen?
I'm hungry already. Don't be stupid.
I'm right, I'm a Belobrat, so do as I say. Oh, so much for democracy then. Well, that's turned out well so far, didn't it? Strangled an alien planet, another beam down. Somebody needs to give orders round here instead of rolling my eyes and fluttering my feathers and pretending I have all the answers. Big head, all three of them. Now listen here, Captain Beaky.
Shut up! I yelled. So loudly it took everyone by surprise, but not enough to keep them quiet. Fingers on lips, I said, going round the class. Look, remember they want to divide us, but we're friends. We've never said a bad word to each other in all the time we've been on Orpheus, and we're not about to start now. We need each other, and Woo and Squash both need us, I said. Disagreements don't mean we have to stop acting friendly to each other. We can do each of these things. Half of us can go look for Woo, and the others can go look for jobs for all of us. We're probably safer in small groups anyway for now, and less likely to be spotted than if we all go. We'll meet back at, let's say, the cricket pitch. That's the next event, in an hour, and then do that together. All sorted? 10 faces looked back to me in shock and nodded. Good, I said. Pick your teams, and let's go. I was in the team with Lando, Robin, XXXX and Archelaus, heading back in the direction where we come from to look for clues. Blotchy straining at the leash to go. Bettina, Hermione, Margalo and Jake all headed further into the Olympic village to look for a job. Well done, Colin, said Robin as we walked. You might not say much, but at least it means people listen to you when you talk. I laughed. Not often, but sometimes. Hey everyone, called Lando, whose large bottom was sticking out from the bush. I think our algebra friend has just found something. Wasn't this the barbell that Woo was carrying for training when she left this morning? We all looked. So far as we could tell, it was. Do all Doosbury Giants practice with them though? Robin asked XXXX doubtfully. I mean, it could be someone else's. XXXX sniffed it.
I'm not sure.
He said helplessly.
I do know it would take a lot for a Doosbury Giant to leave something as precious as this behind.
Nuts, said Robin. XXXX offered the one. No, she laughed. I mean, gosh darn it, I thought we had irrefutable proof of something then at last, instead of working with hints and uncertainties.
Welcome to adulthood,
sighed Elfrida.
Logically, something strange happened here.
Said Archelaus.
Look at these bushes. They appear as if something or someone large was dragged through them. The Doosbury Giant, maybe.
Is there any sign of the blood samples? Asked Lando. Perhaps they got dropped too. We looked, but there was no sign. We carried on until we found a shack hidden in the forest. Robin, said the Clandusprod, do your magic stuff and see if we can open the door. Otherwise XXXX and I will try to break it down.
Isn't that illegal?
Asked Archelaus.
I mean, the people here might have nothing to do with Woo. It's all mere speculation.
Look at Blotchy, pointed out Robin. He's snarling at something in there and desperate to get in. Oh. Suddenly the algebra broke off from his lead and it disappeared. Blotchy! Blotchy! Everyone called, but there was no sign of him. Blotchy! 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 Oh, great, sighed Lando. That will look good when we go back to the others, won't it? Well, everyone, our party didn't discover our missing friend, but we did manage to lose another member of our clan. It only took a few minutes, too. Robin tried a trick with the door. No good, she said. No keys. I've tried putting my eye up to the lock, but I can't see anything. Actually, you have the best eyesight. Give us a bash.
I can do better than that,
he said, putting on his infrared spectacles.
Ooh,
He cried.
well, somebody's been here, all right. The Doosbury shape, too. This isn't a natural building for a Doosbury Giant to be housed in by choice. It must have been very cramped. But not here now, though.
Where's Blotchy? Asked Lando. Any sign of where we can get him out?
I can't see him at all,
Said Archelaus, readjusting his spectacles.
His funky's vanished.
He can't have done, said Robin. I mean, he was here a second ago. This is only a small shack. Let's look round it. We did. We even extended our arms and walked all the way round it to make sure that we'd gone round the whole of it. Nothing. Lando and XXXX rushed up to the door and put their full weight behind it, but while it creaked and groaned, it was sturdier than it looked and made with reinforced Doosbury concrete, so it refused to give way. "Ow," said Robin as XXX, bouncing off the door frame, sat down a little too heavily on top of her. "I wish Squash was here, not least because it would surely have been him that got squashed then, not me." "Blodgey," called Lando, desperate. "Here, boy, I've got your favourite bone I took from our yard specially." He looked frantic. "I can't have lost it. I'm the one in the class who keeps us all together. That's my reason for being. I'm not the reckless one like the others are. What is Bettina going to say? What is everyone going to think of me?" Robin comforted him. "It wasn't your fault. Blodgey just ran off. You can't stop an Habridat in full flight. They're too strong and that lead broke by accident. You didn't break it." Archelaus coughed.
If you would perhaps follow my plan, I might be able to solve at least one of our problems. Fact.
"Not now, Archie," said Lando through gritted teeth. "Well," he added after an hour of fruitless searching, "I guess we'll have to give up and meet the others. I was so hoping we'd have found something, but we'd be able to rescue Woo before a big game. I'm so sure she's been taken. I'm so worried about what the others might say. That's my biggest fear of growing up, disappointing everyone with my mistakes." "Don't worry," added Robin. "I doubt they've got on any better than us. Trying to find 10 jobs for 10 10-year-olds. It was hopeless." We all trooped on to the cricket pitch, rather dejected.
Hey,
Said QQQ rushing out to us as we walked past.
good news.
"You found Woo?" asked Lando, ecstatic.
Oh, no,
His face fell.
not that. But we have got special dispensation to run our event in 3 days' time, right before the closing ceremony. That gives all sorts of allowances for Woolworth to turn up.
Somehow, though, none of us felt that hopeful. We wondered about whether we should let on what we just found, the imprint of a Doosbury Giant on a ramshackle shack in the woods. But what proof did we have that it was Woo? We decided to keep it to ourselves for now, and walked on to the cricket pitch, where the Doosbury Giants were training instead, watching the 5 hopeful faces of our friends look up expectantly at us, and fall again as they clocked how sad we all were.
Where's Blotchy?
Said Bettina quickly. We looked at each other guiltily. "He ran off," Lando admitted quietly.
You let him off his lead?
He shot, 6 eyebrows raised. "Not exactly," the Clandusprod admitted. "He broke it. Look," he said, handing the remains over.
Only hovering Habridat helicopters. What in Decreeta were you doing?
"It was an accident," Robin said. "It wasn't Lando's fault. Blotchy was just too strong."
I knew I shouldn't have left him with you. Well, you 5 have been goofing off. We've had a very productive afternoon,
said Bettina, only half defeated by her bad news.
We all have jobs, starting in an hour, so get busy.
"What?" said Robin. "How?"
It was Jake's idea. He overheard a bunch of Glabdiharbit athletes squeaking about how depressed they were at being defeated at the Olympics, and he said we were used to cheering people up and could we help? Apparently there are a lot of intergalactic athletes, and even more intergalactic viewers depressed at how the athletics is going, who need cheering up. So the Olympic Committee has set up a hotline to each planet, and we have 1 phone line each. Well, the Glabdiharbits are the best customers.
Jake squeaked proudly.
I'm being content with job and salary.
He squeaked and thought for a second.
I'm scared about making the most of probation opportunities.
"Fantastic," beamed Lando. "I can offer emotional support standing on my head. I will too," that cheers people up. Everyone was smiling, except me. I was nearly comatose.
Ah,
Said Bettina, noticing.
I hadn't thought of you specifically. Sorry, Colin, but maybe it'll be good for you. I mean, it's not public squeaking, it's one-on-one.
"No fear," I wrote, shrinking away. "Phones are my worst nightmare. Talking to strangers is terrifying. But the 2 together, I'd rather spend a week locked in a room with Mr. Maggrumph. Can I just type some messages out and get someone else to say them for me?"
Sorry, son,
said Elfrida.
I don't think that's in the contract. We should have thought of that. Maybe they would take 9 of us instead of 10. We don't have an Agrosian either, of course.
That doesn't matter.
Pointed out Hermione.
They're too long distance anyway, being on the other side of the universe. The bill will be astronomical. Hey, did you hear my pun? I said astronomical. Besides the light being upset over there, it's positively a daily ritual. No,
said Bettina.
They said when they hired us, it's all of us or none of us.
She grinned at me.
Come on, Colin, it's not that bad. The customers won't bite.
"Maybe not," I wrote back, "but will judge me with their voices and their heavy breathing and their disdain and their disgust and their tut-tutting and their..." I I looked up in surprise from my scribbling at a sudden burst of noise to see that the cricket match between the humans and Doosbury Giants had just started, and everyone in our class was rolling around the floor in hysterics. All except Robin, who looked more confused than anything else.
What is happening?
Asked Hermione, guffawing.
This is the most alien sport ever. Hang on, this is your planet's creation. Please explain it to us, quickly.
Quickly, she said. I don't think that's possible. The ball whizzed through the air as bowled by a human. The Doosbury Giant in back just watched it run into them.
How
She said as the ball hit her leg.
How's that?
Yelled the Belobrat umpire.
There's what?
Asked the batter.
I didn't hit anything.
Leg before wicket.
Well, obviously.
The Doosbury Giant said, scratching her head.
I mean, it was a lot of leg, and not much of wicket.
A second bowl was made, and this time the Doosbury Giant shut her eyes, without making contact with the ball and sending it out into the field. Another Doosbury Giant sitting on the boundary line caught it in their mouth and ate it, declaring it to be nice and crunchy. The Belobrat umpire intervened again.
No, he said, you're not on the building team. You're not meant to eat the ball.
But it was so tasty.
He said.
Is there anything in the rules that says I can't eat it?
No,
Said the Belobrat, consulting.
I should recommend they add one. A mouth before wicket rule, perhaps.
The Doosbury shrugged.
What time's lunch?
She asked.
Those half-time oranges sound 9.
The Belobrat umpire collected another ball and was about to restart the match when he noticed the wicket was missing. He blew a whistle out of all three of his mouths.
You,
He said.
no eating the wicket either.
The wicket-keeper looked up.
You said it was a sticky wicket.
He said, the wooden stick stuck to the side of his mouth.
I thought you meant it was like a sticky bun. I didn't think much of it though. I think it tasted disappointingly splitting.
No.
The Belobrat umpire declared.
Match suspended. Will I explain the rules? Again.
You didn't want to play anyway.
Sniffed the captain.
I hear you play for Ashes back on Earth. Well, who wants to play for a pile of burnt toast? Back at the clubhouse for a club sandwich, everyone.
The Doosbury players trotted back, leaving the pitch destroyed. But that's just not cricket, said Robin, astonished. In every sense of the word. I thought all the intergalactic Olympic teams knew how to play all the sports.
Most of them, no one really got the hang of cricket.
Said XXXX apologetically.
They thought it was like a parody of other sports, made up as it goes along.
I thought the name was derogatory.
Said Elfrida.
I mean, my cricket ancestors live on your planet. The game is obviously an offence. Somehow.
No, said Robin. Cricket is an old word for a stick, I think. Nothing to do with your ancestors, Elfrida.
Why not update it then?
Asked Elfrida.
Call it stick it instead.
I don't know, said Robin helplessly. Earth language is strange. It's kind of jumbled up from different countries all over, and too many people would have to agree to change each word. So we kind of just leave it as it is.
Jumbled up, so was that match.
Said Bettina.
Oh, Penguin, that was priceless. The funniest thing I've seen in years. For all your sports like that.
No, said Robin. Some of them are even sillier. Let me tell you all about curling.
Time to start.
Called a Doosbury voice, introducing himself as our new boss, FF, a few minutes later.
You're all here, good. Now here are your phone line rotors, everyone. Tea break begins at 5. There's another one at 10 past 5. Another one at half past 5. There's a double break at 6. Tea is at 6:15. Lunch is at 6:30. Supper is at 6:45.
I love working for Doosbury Giants.
Whispered Hermione.
So many break points.
I don't know what to say to strangers, I gasped, still anxious. This is the worst possible job you could have chosen for me.
Well,
Said Bettina simply.
it's the only job available, so there it is. Such is life, as an adult.
I think I found my hardest part of growing up, I said sadly, being stuck in a job I'm not suited for.
What's the matter?
Added Hermione.
Too big for small talk?
Yes, I said simply. Camalosians don't really do niceties. We don't know how. Then learn, said Lando kindly. You're good at learning and adapting. It's not that simple, I said. I want to know about a person's greatest hopes, fears and dreams. I can't matter to them about what a silly day it is, how many goals their team scored today, or didn't. I shuddered. I just feels like such a colossal waste of time when life is so furry, blurry, brutish and short.
Believe me, I know how you feel.
Added Elfrida.
Sometimes a friendly voice can do wonders for the soul.
I've got an idea, said Robin. We're probably not going to get many callers, so let's send them to you last, Colin. That way there won't be much left for you to say, and you can just listen. You're good at that. I nodded, and she thought of something else. How do we get paid? She inquired.
Cash in hand every night, in any currency you like,
Said FF.
although of course there's really only 6 currencies: the eartho, the belera, the Glabdiharbit, the Clandusprod ruble, the Habridat, canute, or electricity, and you can choose to have your salary paid directly to your energy suppliers.
Weird.
Asked Elfrida.
We don't have a monetary system on Mars. We work for things provided for us by the state. That's not quite the same. Hey, maybe we could buy a Woolworth shack and have it expand by floors and all we earn, the way we do at home.
Currency is the best.
Said Bettina impatiently.
Coins, Belera, you have the most amazing three-sided coins on house here. You can personalise, so the person you're giving it to knows where they come from. One side for each head.
Isn't that expensive getting all that made up? Asked Robin. Doesn't that cost more than your salary?
Oh yeah,
Said Bettina.
you end up poorer than when you started, but it's worth it to see your heads embossed in gold. Remind me never to play heads or tails with you then, if all your coins are 3 heads.
Laughed Hermione.
You can't be bothered with money on Habridat.
Oh, far too tired keeping track of it all. We get paid in food vouchers.
Said XXXX.
The harder you work, the more you get to eat, but nobody gets to starve.
I don't really understand the concept either, admitted Lando. On Ziggurat 3, each cave clan has responsibilities, where your other needs are met by those from other caves. There's no need for money, as everyone is in service to each other.
We just work for spare parts.
Said Archers.
If we work at all, mostly with robots and that sort of thing.
Why work for something when you can make someone work it for you?
Harumphed Margalo.
Bash the cash, that's what I say. Maggrumph has been doing it for centuries.
Jick squeaked.
We used to have a monetary system, but the stock market and economic price index were too scary. Our bankers all hid under the table any time either of them started falling and wouldn't come out again.
As for Camalosians, we bartered and haggled for our needs, a process that frequently took longer than the jobs themselves. Robin was confused by all these differences, but shouldered on. So much for capitalism being the way of the future then, as we kept being told on Earth when we were growing up, and we're the only planet that seems to have it. Right, well I say we get paid in some form of general currency, and then it is easier to split it between us when we need it. We all nodded in agreement. FF was getting frantic.
Fine, now please tie this money to your seats, and like school it costs you money if you're late.
Oh, good.
Said Archers.
Routines at last. I think I'm going to like being an adult.
We walked into the communal office and sat ourselves down in our chairs, one built for each species, and with a relevant tie-in phone in our planet colours next to us. We looked guiltily at the Agrosian one, which was furry and red.
Will the food replica kitchen take coins?
Asked XXXX.
I remember seeing the slot in Woolworth's cabin. I thought it was for small pieces of toast to come out. Of course,
Said FF.
what other reason to be paid is there for the one to eat?
Well, that's one thing sorted then.
Said Bettina as we were shown to our chairs.
I wonder if anyone will call a helpline though. Do people really care so much about sports?
To our surprise, lots of people did, and soon the room was filled with the humming of phones and the sound of voices. We soon took on a rota system of each available 3 species, answering the phone, and if they asked for a general support call, passing them on down the line until they'd spoken to all of us, or had run off. We started off with a human, who was passed back and forth between us. Here's the advice.
XXXX. If you're feeling sour, get a giant pot of ice cream, and it will give your tummy a hug. Oh, sorry, you can't eat any ice cream. Well, go and find something you really like, and eat a second helping of it. You deserve to have a treat just for surviving today.
Jake. Squeak. It's only human to feel scared and anxious sometimes. And Glabdiharbit. It's very Glabdiharbit. It is a scary place out there. If you need to hide in the vantage hold so only your eyes are showing, and you have to be tempted out with hugs sometimes, that's perfectly okay too.
Bettina, I know you're probably feeling the pressure to be perfect. Well, don't. You're a human, and everyone knows that only Belobrats are perfect. We're the best. You know, you're allowed to make mistakes. There, bet you feel better already.
Lando, the world is a better place with you in it. If you were missing, my clan would be one person short, and that would be sad. Here is a hug, down the phone.
Archers. It could be worse. Fact. Oh wait, it did get worse. Also fact.
Robin, I'm sorry, but it's human to fail, and we are human after all. We've lost many times and always picked ourselves up. Have some tea, that might help.
Or Frida. The world is spinning into infinity. We are but one small cosmic speck on its grand rotating axis. It's easy to feel that we're about to be thrown off it sometimes, but it's all part of being alive. Truly we are such small parts of the approximately infinite universe that we are not responsible for what goes on in the world outside our door. All we can do is change the infinitesimal part of the world we have around us for the better. Also, the darkest hour is always meteorologically just before the dawn.
Hermione, you're in doubt, take it up. If particularly anxious or worried, take 3.
Margot.
Just get on with it and stop calling me up and bothering me.
We had decided to put Margot second to last in case she put people off. Not many people asked to be put through to Margot, or me afterwards. I stared at my phone, waiting at the end of the queue, not sure what to do with it. After all, we didn't have phones on Camalosian. If we wanted something, we wrote a letter and saved our voices for courtrooms and lawyer meetings. We didn't do chit-chat or idle gossip. What was I even doing here? I didn't have advice for anyone. I had no idea what I was doing with my own life yet. I stared at the others, merrily talking away as if they had known these strangers for quadzillions of years, and tried to be more like them, living in the moment, offering ideas, getting to know someone else on a superficial level. I thought about just getting up and leaving, but we were a class after all, and did things together now. I would have to stay here, as I watched the others and stared at the phone, so the phone stared back at me, in a mutual unspoken agreement not to bother each other, as we both sat there, unblinking at each other. Finally, though, the inevitable happened, and amazingly someone hadn't been put off being paired with a Maggrumph.
Your turn, Colin,
said Margot. The alien phone next to me made a startled noise, as if it too had been afraid to break the silence. Tentatively I reached out with my claws and spoke, as I had seen the others do before me. Hello, I gasped quietly, aware of how my voice was breaking the protective silence. What a stupid invention. I couldn't tell anything from a person at the other end the way I was used to doing as a Camalosian, except the nuances in my voice. I was so used to working out from their appearance in a single nanosecond a person's mood, habits, personality, hidden secrets, lucky numbers, favourite colours, and what they would do in a million different scenarios, from being in the same room as them, from observing every single quirk, tick and character trait. But here, I had nothing but a voice to go on, and unlike physical bodies or graphology, voices could lie, an uncomfortable thought for a Camalosian. I was paralysed. The stranger on the other end might as well be, well, a stranger. And unlike the others, I couldn't give generalised help like that. I needed to know them to know how to help them. Hello, the other son whispered. Is someone there? I nodded before catching myself. Fuck, what a good that would be on a phone line. Yes, I squeaked uncertainly. Calling Camalosian, at your service. Thank goodness, said the person at the other end. A good listening species at last. That's all I need. The others kept interrupting before I was able to talk about my problems and kept giving me more of their own. You see, I have to talk to somebody. It's like this. I thought I would be the worst being possible at this job, but it turns out my greatest fear of growing up, of being out of place and useless, wasn't true at all, and I was actually a natural fit. In no time at all I had a queue of customers waiting to speak to me while I listened over and over, understanding, empathising, making sure people were heard. Then I passed them back to one of the others who I thought could offer some specific advice, usually Lando, who wished them a nice day and made them feel better about themselves with all the small talk I couldn't do. To my surprise, my listening service proved to be more popular than the others, talking services, and soon word had got out about the quiet Camalosian, so people were asking specifically for me, which made me feel strangely content. At last I was being of service to someone and participating mostly through observation, my dream job. In the meantime, the others had such little to do with so many calls diverted to me that they ended up inventing a new game called Wheelie Football, which involved kicking bits of paper into waste paper baskets from a swivel chair. One particularly good goal caused Margot to fall forward antler first into a nearby bin.
Goal!
Yelled Bettina, standing on a chair and pulling a new tartan shirt all over 3 heads at once.
I'm the greatest wheelie football centre forward that's ever been in the entire intergalactic history of the universe.
You're the only wheel of football centre forward that's ever been in the history of the entire galactic universe, said Lando, helping Margalo out of the bin on the other side of the room she'd just fallen into. Just then FF put his head round the door, and he winced at the untidy scene before him. We stood there awkwardly.
You can't do that at work,
He said pointedly.
You're not at school now. Time to go home and do it there instead.
He said.
Drat,
Said Hermione.
that's another of my grown sins right there.
Finish off the call you're on.
FF said to me, and he patted me on the head.
Good work, Camalosian. I'm not too sure what the others got up to. I kept getting praise for the good job you've done today.
But I only listened. I didn't say anything much at all, I protested.
Sometimes,
Replied FF.
that's all people need. Right?
He said out loud to the rest of us.
Back in here in 2 days' time.
Great,
Said Bettina.
thank you.
The 10 of us gathered outside his office for our pay packet.
Your salary, minus office time.
Said FF, docking a few coins from most of the pay packets.
There were lots of tips left for you though.
He said to me.
Not our fault your office is so small. All you need is still your swivel chair.
Said Margalo haughtily, one antler still slightly crooked.
Well, this won't go far.
Said Bettina, staring at a meagre salary.
I know he's never been paid before, but this still doesn't seem enough. No wonder adults are so grumpy all the time, I suppose. Let's hope it's enough to keep us full.
XXXX looked anxious.
Do you think it will be?
He asked. Here, I said, adding a few coins from my bursting pay packet. These are on me. I don't feel as though I did all that much, really. XXXX gave me a great big hug. We were on our way home when Archulus suddenly paused.
Are we at coordinates 7XW345-T-Sig-Alpha?
He asked.
You tell me, geek.
Said Bettina,
Nerd, let's not go through all that again.
put in Elfrida, but the Mekkion was off down the road before he could say anything more.
Michael,
Bettina,
what about our routine? We need to go home and eat.
No,
said Archulus.
you don't understand. You need to come with me.
We looked at each other, puzzled. It must be serious for our friend to wheel himself off unplanned,
I don't like this, Archie.
said Elfrida as we walked into a dark hut.
All my senses and intuition are telling me we shouldn't really be in here.
I have a surprise.
Said Archulus.
A way to make even more money so we can live like king robots with golden crested wheels.
But we probably have enough money to live off now, said Lando. Most of thanks to Colin here. We don't want to be greedy. That's not nice.
Plus, I don't know if you've noticed, Robot Boy, but you're the only one of us with wheels.
Said Hermione.
Where are they?
Said Archulus, pressing a button to stamp his wheels in frustration.
I know I've been longer than I meant to do. If they did say they'd be waiting for us.
Woohoo!
Asked Elfrida.
Archie, you've been out in Otley all day. I know you miss your school routine, but now you've jobs, you've got a whole new routine to enjoy. Just think of the rotas you'll be able to set up for us.
Other than that,
He grinned.
I've got us a second job. We're going to make millions. The Clandusprod told me so. Clandusprods never lie.
Actually, said Lando, I think that's Camalosians. Clandusprods lie all the time. Bettina looked up scornfully. Sorry, he said. I tell white lies all the time. How else will I keep the peace and make people feel better? Just then, a door opened in the rock. Welcome, said Jack. You're here at last, Jack continued. A bit later than I expected, so I might have to dock you a little back pay. But not too late for my little scheme, which is going to make us all rich. Yes, all of us, my little friends. Let me be of service to you, and you be of service to me, and everybody wins. You, said Robin, the only person to have seen him properly apart from Archulus. She looked around for an exit, but the door had shut, and now looked like all the other rocky outcrops around. I suppose you're here to sell us out to our teachers. Not a bit of it, laughed Jack. You'll find us much nicer to work with. And instead of a teacher-pupil relationship, I'd like to think of us as partners.
See?
Said Archulus.
Doesn't that sound better, everyone?
We weren't altogether sure we agreed. Now, continued Jack, before we start, would anyone like a nice sit-down and a hot beverage? XXXX took a seat gratefully. I don't charge much, said the Clandusprod. XXXX stood up again quickly.
I don't have any money.
He said apologetically.
Barely enough for supper.
Oh, great,
sighed Hermione.
a capitalistic Clandusprod, just what the universe needs.
Sorry we're late,
said Archelaus Breezely.
been a busy day. Fact.
All right,
Said Bettina.
what's going on? Let's get this over with, quick.
Jack turned on a light switch, and all around us crates were piled high, while a large movie camera was trained straight on us. Very well, here's my business proposal. A few words from you, a few products from me, you'll be the toast of the universe. I'll be rich, you'll be rich. What's not to love? It's child's play. Oh no, I said, heading for where the door had been. I've had enough attention for one day. I'm not being filmed now too. You'll want to when you see what I've got ready to offer you, said the Clandusprod, laughing to himself in some private joke.
We don't need your money.
Me, said Bettina fiercely.
We have our own now. We're economically advantaged. Whatever you're up to is probably crooked, like the red weed stuff you were peddling. We know all about that now.
No, smiled Jack. Not everything, not yet. Only if you have your own income source, even better. I'll pay you in tonics, lotions and pills. And if you want any more, then you can pay me for the tonics, lotions and pills. We'll make new men out of you, and women in all species.
We're fine how we are, thanks.
Said Bettina, 3 hands on her hips.
Perfect, in fact.
Are you going to shoot us?
Asked Jake anxiously, rolling up into a ball. No, you tell them. It was meant to be a surprise. You cold-hearted, treacherous son of a criminal cave clan shooting children for profit, spat Lando. Let us out of here. Oh, he said, calming down, staring at the cameras and realising what was going on. You meant shoot us in a filmic sense, didn't you? Of course, said Jack. I'm not a monster. What good would you be to be dead?
I don't understand.
Said Elfrida.
What good are we to you alive?
We're business partners, smiled Jack.
Yeah,
Said Archelaus.
that's illogical. We didn't sign a contract.
You don't need to, smiled Jack. You're underage, and your guardians agreed for you. Guardians, said Robin. But we don't have any guardians. We're free range. Maybe now, said Jack, but not when the contract was signed up with your teachers and Orpheus, and the contract's still binding even after you left for school. I put that in the small print. Or was it the really small print? Maybe the infinitesimally small print, actually.
Oh, I see.
Said Hermione.
And when it's done, you're going to turn us back to your business colleagues on Orpheus. Is that it?
Jack was confused. Not a bit of it, he said. We want to protect you from them. Their loss is our gain. Besides, we have a whole new, much bigger manufacturing scheme going on than anything that happened in Orpheus. They've already been paid handsomely for your part in all this. The way I see it, it was a stupid business decision to let you go. They've come back to me asking for new terms in our agreement, but without you, they're useless to me. Why cut more people in than you have to, I say. They've gone home to Orpheus now with their tails between their legs, or their antlers anyway. I think they're planning to get another bunch of kids and start all over again, but if they do, we'll be way behind the scheme I've got planned. I'll let them rejoin too, but for a lower cut of the profits this time. Sensible me.
So why do you want us?
Asked Elfrida, her wings folded. A business proposal, said Jack. Say a few things into this microphone on camera for me about how good my products are, and how much they've benefited you and cured your various ailments. I'll pay you some top money in whatever currency you choose. We stay in touch for some future deals, and everything's sorted. Lovely jubbly.
But they haven't helped us,
Said Bettina.
Curse coughing Camalosians. We didn't even know we were taking it. You were force-feeding us.
Jack shrugged. Most guinea pigs don't know they're being tested. If you'd have known, you'd have spoiled things. Anyway, you're all fine, aren't you? I'd say you're all much happier, not to say tougher, than you were when you first went to Orpheus. That's everything to do with us, and nothing to do with the red weed, said Lando. What about Paul Squash? Jack was perturbed. Eh? He said. You completely distorted his personality, yelled Lando, losing his cool. He's a mere shell of himself now. That's all your fault. Jack looked puzzled a second, then counted everyone in the room. There were, of course, 10 of us, not 11. Squash is the Agrosian, right? He said. I remember him from the recordings we've already got. Small, furry and cute, but you wouldn't want to stick your fingers in his mouth. Where is he now?
Safe,
Said Elfrida.
that's all you need to know.
Oh well, shrugged Jack. 10 out of 11 aliens ain't bad. I still might be able to sell the Agrosian tins. I just might have to add a few bits of small print to the side of the label. Maybe find someone else to portray his voice. Do an impression. That sort of thing. Does anyone here know any good swear words?
What tins?
Asked Bettina. Oh, you'll find out soon enough, said Jack nastily. One last time. Will you work for me? You'll be well paid. When Cigarus Free and its trio of sons freezes over, said Lando. Jack shrugged. That's a pity, but not impossible. I can still sell these goods without your input. I'll just have to keep you here in perpetuity so you can't give the game away or work for a rival company. After all, you're going to be famous soon once we re-edit the footage of you we have already. I shall do a proper job of trapping you this time, not like your dunderheaded teachers. There's no escape from this room. It's lock-proof, soundproof, bomb-proof, shatterproof, and child-proof. I don't expect you will realise it yet, but your only way out, to be fed and looked after, is to work with me. For if you don't work with me, then I'm better off without you, quite honestly. He turned to look at Margalo. I'm sorry for you, Missy. I know how much difference that money would have made. I'm sorry for your mum, who's missing you terribly. I can still reunite you both at least. We all sighed, knowing what Margalo was likely to say, how easily Maggrumph sold people out. To our surprise, she spoke in a low growl instead.
I don't do business deals with people who mock at my friends,
she said. Bettina slapped her on the back of this. Lando hugged her, and Robin cheered. Then Margalo lowered her antlers and charged at the Clandusprod. Just in time, Jack leapt out of the way and walked back through the door, locking it. Robin ran up to the door and tried to do her stuff with the lock, but it wouldn't give way.
Oh, Archie,
said Bettina, venting her anger.
How could you? Why did you trust him? For a bright spark, you aren't half dim sometimes.
But we needed money,
said Archelaus.
He was being nice. I'll let Mrs. Maggrumph first. It sounded such a simple job, not much effort needed. It seemed a bargain. Fact?
He asked.
You have to learn not to trust people at face value,
said Elfrida, pulling an arm on his robotic shoulders.
Not everyone has the same motives as you.
But it's logical people should do what's the best for everyone.
Blinked Archelaus.
Then everyone wins. Fact.
Yes,
said Elfrida.
If they think like us. But that's not true when people have a lot to gain. It doesn't matter if others have a lot to lose. They'll do it anyway.
But suffering is counterproductive,
said Archelaus.
I agree with you,
said Elfrida.
But others wouldn't. You can't trust everyone who's nice to you.
Archelaus pulled her face.
I didn't think of that. I thought everyone could be trusted. Those have the same mindset as me. My senses don't pick up on hidden motives and expressions that easily. Other species are so complex. I think I found my own Achilles wheel enjoying the adult population along with the rest of you.
Robin and I were still fiddling with the door when, puffed out, the human leant to rest for a second on the wall and accidentally flipped the lights on with her elbow. Everyone flinched from the sudden influx of light. I jumped up and down, pointing, having just noticed a pile of crates in the corner.
Where did those come from?
Asked Hermione, flying up to the top of the pile and feeling with her wings.
Maybe we could climb on them and get out. There must be another ventilation shaft here somewhere. We can do the same trick as last time.
Right, said Bettina quickly.
No, thank you.
We were here all the time,
said Archie.
I could see them with my X-ray spectacles. I thought you all knew.
Oh, Archie,
said Bettina, banging her heads as one.
It's no good,
said Hermione, sighing.
We're still in town. Again, why do adults always have to take away our freedom and keep us ensconced in places?
Wait, what's all this on the packaging? Asked Robin, pulling out tins with Elfrida's face on them. Then, trying another crate, she discovered tins with pictures of squash. Pulling all the crates apart, we discovered tins with all our faces on them. Pictures of us. All of us. Why? Anyone got a can opener? Archelaus took one out of his dimensionally transcendental bag and opened it, spilling a bunch of red weed out onto the floor. For the moment, though, the class had all taken with the packaging on the outside. It looks like our homework, said Robin. You know, those drawings we were asked to do in art class.
On a bottle?
Asked Bettina.
I mean, I know my homework was stone cold brilliant. That didn't mean we had to publish it.
We're famous because of our homework?
Said Archelaus with disdain.
How illogical.
It's more than that,
said Elfrida.
Look at the writing on the back. That's our homework too. It's our essays about our life before we came to Orpheus. Only the ending has been changed. Listen to this. One bottle of red weed helped me overcome my feelings of spiritual dissonance. I wholeheartedly recommend them to every Mrasianart so they can start feeling as good as me. Well, I never said that. I would never say that.
"Oh me," said Robin, opening the crate with her face on them. "This bottle says red weed is a cure for dyspraxia. Well, there's no such thing, and if there was, red weed wouldn't be it."
Red weed kill my shyness,
said Bettina, opening her crate.
I'm only a muppets that look like Maggrumph. That's not true. If anything killed my shyness, it was hanging around you lot. Oh, so red weed solved my sarcasm and made me a more naturally laid back Habridat, did it?
asked Hermione, reading her label.
Yeah, right.
"Look at this too," said Lando. "Suitable for children of all ages, of all species. Well, we know that's a lie too. It's only been tested on us. One child per species isn't proper testing," said Jake, rolling up into a ball, reading his tin.
This is highly illogical,
said Archelaus, leaning over his crate.
Red weed has not made me emotionally mature. I delight in still being a child.
He dived in his crate, right in up to his neck.
Oh wait,
he said.
Look at the small print at the bottom. All the heart rates and so on. They're all accurate too, as far as I can tell. What an odd thing to print, though.
Bandit was sadly holding a crate of food with his face on and another with squashes. "Both of these are lies," he said. "Regardless of how I feel, though, I don't think squash is all better with no side effects after taking this stuff, do you?" Archelaus was now opening his bottle and peering at the substance through his pocket microscope.
Odd,
he said.
It's still benign. I thought they might have found a way of turning it on if they're delivering such a mass supply. But this stuff is still harmless as far as I can tell. So why make it and sell it?
As for my crate, I noted with shock that I hadn't said a word my whole life until discovering red weed, and that now nobody could shut me up. "The Camalosians can't lie," I said, staring in horror at the untruths of my tin. Overcome and worried about all the gullible Camalosians out there who would try something like this because they assumed if one of us was saying it then it had to be true, I went to sit down, but lost my footing and banged my head against the TV monitor, which flickered on in the background. "That's us," said Robin, looking up. We gazed in horror for the next 5 minutes, as advert after advert ran, 11 for the 11 of us. Over and over again we would see real footage of us on Orpheus that must have been filmed on those cameras. Margalo being angry, Bettina being bossy, Lando being manipulated, Robin falling over, Archelaus short-circuiting with emotion, Elfrida looking lost and lonely on her own, Squash having a tantrum, XXXX trying to make himself throw up, Hermione being obstinate, Jake rolling up into a ball, me stuck for words. Only it was distorted, our voices added over the top, saying over and over, "My life changed completely on discovering red weed. I am now a happy, well-adjusted member of society. I am so glad I took part in the red weed trials, and now I recommend them to every one of you on my home world." A voiceover that sounded like the three-head master added,
"Has been proven during scientific tests to decrease problems experienced by 11 out of 11 planets."
"We haven't been in any scientific tests, have we?" asked Lando. "I mean, I know we had that science test about warp drives the other day. That was just for class, wasn't it? We're certainly not well adjusted."
"Speak for yourself,"
muttered Margalo.
"You haven't taken part in any with permission,"
said Elfrida slowly, piecing it all together.
"But we've clearly been monitored. I think this explains the CCTV cameras you saw on Orpheus, Penguin. Maybe there was puncture marks too if they were measuring our side effects at the tiny writing at the bottom of the label. It could do anything to any of us. Nobody would have known. It still might do something to the wild public out there if they take it."
"And it did to poor Squash," said Lando.
"So if something is dangerous, we have to test it on somebody first,"
said Elfrida.
"You're better than a bunch of kids who couldn't tell anyone or disagree. Better yet, a bunch of kids with no parents on an alien planet in the middle of nowhere."
"But why bother pretending it was a school at all?"
asked Hermione.
"Why not just lock us up and force feed us?"
"I think we're testing its effects on our intelligence too,"
said Elfrida.
"That's why they kept giving us so many blasted tests."
"You mean we weren't really a school at all, but a sort of capitalist zoo cum laboratory?" asked Robin.
"Yes," said Elfrida, working it out at last. "They monitored everything we did and tracked any changes in us, or trying to sell it as a byproduct of the red weed. Whereas every change that took place was made by us doing what kids do naturally the whole universe over. Change, adapt and grow."
Archelaus scratched his head with his spare arm.
I agree. You have changed, certainly, and in many ways for the better. However, logic dictates that our respective recoveries had nothing to do with the red weed we were being fed, and everything to do with being removed from an environment that wasn't good for us. There isn't one single factor that helped any of us, and I'm willing to bet, and I've never bet that's illogical, but even I'm willing to bet that our recovery had more to do with us helping each other and becoming friends than it ever had to do with some illicit toxic substance we were being fed without our knowledge. We've been used. Sorry, everyone. I feel ashamed.
I feel sick,
said XXXX.
I feel scared,
said Jake.
I feel angry,
said Margalo. I feel betrayed, said Lando.
I feel vindicated,
said Hermione.
I was thought adults were up to something.
I feel all those things, said Robin. And a whole lot more.
Oh,
Said Elfrida suddenly. We looked round at her.
I have the strangest feeling now, subliminally, as if someone was ordering me to go and buy this stuff for the good of my health. For a moment I even thought it to be true, even though we all suspect it's poison.
Me too, said Robin with a shudder. Creepy.
I want 6 bottles!
yelled Jake.
Wait a minute, subliminal messaging scary! That's how we're doing it then.
Breathed Elfrida.
And once our faces and names go out on the packaging, everyone we see is going to blame their craving and what the red weed does to them on us, the innocent bystanders in all this.
She looked round at all of us.
As much as I wanted to just run away and be children of an alien world with this nice cosy job we had for ourselves, that settles it. We have to stop this, any way we can.
Agreed,
Said Bettina.
Nobody's using my beautiful faces for anything except me.
Logically, I agree.
Said Archelaus.
But no one else knows how to stop this except Willow. It looks as if they've got her too.
Come on, said Robin, suddenly scared. Let's get out of here. Quick. But hard as we all tried, there was no easy route out of the room we were in. We attempted everything. Margalo tried battering the walls down. Elfrida looked for secret passages. Archelaus used ultraviolet and ultra-roulet light looking for holes. And Robin and I chipped away at the rock with my 114th best pens. Nothing worked. Exhausted, we finally sat down for a rest, huddled together in the middle of the room, for there wasn't much warmth left now that the artificial Decreetian sun was fading outside. It was getting dark too, so much so that I really struggled to finish off my first draft notes, which seemed to be littered with mistakes. All of us shone
Well, friends,
said Bettina sadly.
I'm guessing we're stuck here, for now at least. It looks as if that shady Clandusprod might get his way after all. I say we work with him until we get the chance to get out of here, or clobber him, and then when one of us has a chance, whichever one of us it is, we run for help. Yeah, but who to?
Complained Hermione.
Not many people have listened to us so far, have they? The one who did, look what he got them.
Do you really think they got Woo-Woo-Woo?
Asked XXXX. We all nodded sadly.
If she was so strong, agile and brave.
Said XXXX.
If she couldn't put up a fight, then what chance have we?
Squeaked Jake.
But I don't want to show out and let other people die more.
I'm so sorry.
Said Archelaus.
I'm trying not to cry so I don't blow my last emotional gasket. I want you to know that I apologise to each and every one of you.
Don't be silly.
Sniffled Elfrida.
It could have been any of us we found in the yard. It just happened to be you.
Archelaus grinned.
This is one thing I can do for everyone.
He said, turning on a radiator in his tummy. We all climbed near him for a hug, and for a while at least some of us were toasty warm. I don't suppose there's anything in your dimensionally transcendental bag that would get us out of this, is there? Asked Robin. Like a crowbar, or a forklift truck, or something. Archelaus shook his head sadly, and scattered the contents of his bag across the floor.
There's not that much at all.
He said sadly.
Some spare stickers from our sticker books, my camera, the red weed sample from earlier.
Better have another, said Robin, just in case, handing him a tin with his face on it.
A didgeridoo, a kazoo, a tennis racket, Botch's whistle, a yo-yo, a toboggan, a statue of intergalactic President Elrond, a model space shuttle in a bottle, Mekkion stamps, a woggle, a spare tyre, and a three-headed hat.
Thank you.
Said Bettina, picking the last one up and putting it on her head.
I wonder what I'd done with that.
Why'd you carry all that around with you, Archie? Asked Robin, picking up the yo-yo, and immediately getting into such a mess with it that Lando had to pull her free. He shrugged.
You never know when this stuff might come in handy. Everyone has those drawers full of stuff they don't know what to do with, don't they?
Not me, Harumph Margalo. I'm a minimalist,
Minimalism is the sign of a wasted life.
sighed Elfrida.
Much better to have lots to show for your brief time in this universe.
Hermione rolled her eyes, even though she was already admiring the shuttle in the bottle.
Except that it hasn't. It's all junk. Even for those of us who have one of those drawers, we don't carry it around with us everywhere we go.
Maybe you should. Better to have objects that might be useful than have nothing at all.
Mekkion sighed, and absent-mindedly picked up Blotch's whistle to his lips.
I'm so delirious,
Margalo complained.
Yeah, must be thin here.
Elfrida looked alarmed.
We should conserve it.
She said.
I don't remember seeing any airways in here.
That's a shame.
Said Margalo.
I feel like super delirious. I want to hug somebody.
She picked up Jake, who squeaked but was too slow to run away as he was pulled to her chest and smothered.
I wish I'd lived my life differently. Be less mean, more giving. I spent too long hanging around the wrong grunt and pretending to be somebody I'm not. Maybe this is my last chance to be close to someone before I expire. Do you know, I'm so faint, I even feel like I can hear Blotchy barking then.
We all paused, our ears straining.
Wait,
Said Bettina.
I thought I heard him then too.
Elfrida banged Archelaus on the back.
Play that whistle again, Robo boy.
She said. This time we distinctly heard barking behind the wall. In a trice, Bettina was up and scrabbling at the wall.
Here, boys,
She said.
we're trapped and can't get out, but if you know a way to go and get help.
She looked at the rest of us and sighed.
Am I just getting my hopes up? He's an Archibald, he won't understand what I say. We're free, yippee!
Cried Margalo.
I take it all back, I can go back to being me again now.
Just then we heard a distinctive scratching. What does that even mean? Asked Robin. Does it even mean anything? Archelaus nodded.
Just a second.
He said, grabbing one of my few remaining empty sheets of paper and a spare pencil I always kept in the toes of my left foot.
I thought so.
He said, writing furiously as the noises continued.
I taught Blotchy Morse code a few weeks ago in case we were ever in a situation like this. It seemed pointless at the time, but I'm glad I did it now.
Blotchy doesn't know Morse code.
Bettina scoffed.
It was months before he even recognised his own name.
All the same, she peered over Archelaus' shoulder, curious.
I'm underneath you, but something is blocking my path.
It said.
Also, I've run out of Argybraft chocolates. Please refill my bowl. I'm hungry.
Robin leapt up from the crate she was leaning against. I thought it sounded as if it was coming from here, she said. There must be a trapdoor underneath it or something. Help me, everyone. Before long we were flinging cans of red weed with pictures of Margalo, Lando and Squash on them away until they were piled up on the opposite side of the room. Once we'd removed enough cans, we slowly and painfully dragged the crate over to the side of the room and threw it as far as we could. To our shock and delight, there really was a trapdoor underneath us, fastened with 2 rings. Lando and XXX moved either side of it and tugged. It's a bit stiff, said Lando. Maybe if we all take hold of one of the rings and pull really hard, like our tug-of-war team. We did, 5 of us on each side of the room. Finally, the door opened with such force it caused us to fall over, XXXX landing on top of me and Robin. I barely had time to notice the pain, though, as Bettina was already shouting,
Blotchy!
and picking the Argybraft up in her arms.
Who's a very clever boy.
She asked. I is, he said proudly.
You understood me?
Asked Bettina in even more shock. Of course, he barked. How are you, boy? Asked Lando. Rough, he barked. Is that rough as in a dog bark, or rough as in not very good, I asked. It's for my nose. Both, he wagged his tail. It was a pun.
Another sign of intelligence.
Said Elfrida proud. Hermione rolled her eyes.
You sure about that? Wait, are we sure that's Blotchy? Maybe it's some other Argybraft who's trained to do tricks on TV.
She went to feel for his collar, but he barked at her. Of course I'm Blotchy. Don't remember when you taught me how to do this? He rolled over and played dead. Not like an ordinary dog would, though. No, he whipped out an amplifier and a guitar from somewhere and began to busk a few bars of Truckin' and China Cat Sunflower note perfectly.
I'm still learning the fretwork, he apologised, but Jerry Garcia's compositions are very hard songs to play. That's true, said Robin. I mean, there's always some weird time signature stuff going on in the Dead's back catalogue, but China Cat especially pushes new boundaries of scansion when you try to sing along with it. And wait, am I really having a musical conversation with an Argybraf? Yes, he barked. I've been working on my own songs too. This one's a homage to China Cat Sunflower, named Porcelain Argybraf Tulips. I think I preferred you when you were less intelligent than us, said Lando, scratching his head. My head didn't hurt quite so much trying to keep up with you. He went to feel Blotchy too, who was red hot. What happened, boy? Blotchy took an open tin of red weed and dropped it at their feet.
Oh,
said Archelaus.
I think I see now. How much of this stuff you can shoot, Blotchy?
The Argybraf looked guilty and burped. He certainly did seem a little wider around the middle.
Well,
continued the Mekkion,
I guess this is one experiment was proved to be a success, and more by accident than anything else. Red weed clearly raises intelligence in Argybrafs.
Maybe. What are the side effects?
asked Bettina, worried. Archelaus shrugged.
No one knows till tests are carried out safely. Not like this haphazard way things have been done.
Don't take any more.
Bettina asked the Argybraf.
Please.
Where does this tunnel go? Asked Robin. Do you think it will come out where we lost him? By that old shack? The one that looked as if Woo-Woo had been dragged to, you mean? Asked Lando. Maybe she's here.
Come on then, quick,
said XXXX, leaping down the hole and probably getting stuck until we managed to push him through. The tunnel was dark and wet and slippery. There were many times we had to hold on to Bettina for safety, who was clutching Blotch's lead so tight she wouldn't let go. Regrettably, I had to put my notes away as there was no light to work with, but then there wasn't much to write about anyway, just metre after metre of tunnel we trudged down in silence. Finally we came to an opening and cautiously looked through it, hoping to see either Woo-Woo or a way out. To our surprise, it was a dead end. We could see where Blotchy had clawed his way in at the end of the tunnel, as there was a heap of soil near to it, but even Jake couldn't fit through the gap, and no amount of digging by us would make the hole any bigger. As for Blotchy, his own paws were cut and bleeding, so we didn't dare force him to dig further. However, as much as this was a dead end for us, there was clearly a way out through the ceiling, as the hole was dominated by a park shuttle. An FHYXL 9-HTGGHT, according to Archelaus, and apparently so rare it was worth a whole 18 points in his spotter's guide. Okay, cool, said Robin, staring up at it. But what is it doing here? Elfrida was particularly puzzled.
To have hidden the whole base away like this underground, someone high up in Decreeta must have been in on this. You don't just build something this big without someone noticing what you're doing. But I always got the sense this operation was tiny. I mean, one small class and one small school and one small planet. Whoever's done this has lots of money to spare.
Shouldn't we look around? Asked Robin, as Jake jumped inside her jacket in alarm. Bettina thought for a moment.
Boy,
she called to Blotchy,
would you go up to the door and see if you can get inside it? If you can, take a look around and see if anyone's in there.
The Argybraf sauntered off leisurely. All clear, he said, wagging his tail.
Inside a Woo-Woo?
Asked XXXX. The Argybraf stopped wagging his tail and began to whimper. No, he said.
Right then,
said Bettina.
Let's take a look around and see what's going on in there.
Entering the ship, she was surprised to see more crates piled up in 11 corners. Only these crates were filled not with red weed at all, but all sorts of chemicals she didn't understand.
What is this stuff?
She asked Archie.
Well,
he said, fixing a new pair of lenses to his nose.
Do you remember the essay I gave on Universalium?
I remember sleeping through you boringly,
said Bettina, and got a look.
What about it?
These are the 11 elements unique to each planet that make up the new metal. Oxygen, humanium, Mekkionium, Agrosian, Doosminium, Habridatinum, Glabdiharbit, Maggrumphian, Agrosian, Camalosian, Mrasianart, and Helospherium.
So what are they doing here? Asked Robin. They don't belong together, do they?
Someone seems to be taking them to put together. Perhaps we've even bought them off all the visiting athletes who come to this planet off their own worlds with the aim of putting them all together to create Universalium,
said Archelaus, pulling out his camera and taking some photos.
And if this stuff is made up of Universalium compounds from all Earth and Planet 1, it's such a new element, nobody really knows what it might do. There's no legal requirement to have it tested. It could be so dangerous. We'll have to find out where this shuttle is going and get more proof of what everyone is up to with these ingredients. Then we could show someone positively what's going on. They surely have to listen to us, whether we're children or not.
Who though?
Asked Elfrida.
How far up does this corruption go?
We all shrugged.
Right then,
Said Bettina.
let's all hide and try to sneak on board when the adults arrive and see where it goes.
Her voice trailed off as she looked around her, particularly at XXX and Lando's bulky sizes. Sorry, said the Clandusprod. We're not exactly inconspicuous, are we? I guess we could stay here and warn someone,
We can get supper ready for you when we get back.
said XXXX,
After losing Blotchy, there's no way I'm letting any one of you out of my sight.
said Bettina.
No, wait.
Said Elfrida.
We don't have to split up or hide. We can fly the shuttle ourselves. Escape.
We all looked round at each other, grinning. Then we're all agreed, asked Robin,
Hold on, I haven't agreed yet.
said Bettina. We looked round in surprise, having rather forgotten that she hadn't said anything. Some other person standing there was no longer our courageous unelected leader, but, for the second time since meeting her, a small child.
It's dangerous. You seem to have forgotten that we're just children. What experience do we have flying space shuttles?
But Bettina, said Robin, you've grown the most of any of us, and that had nothing to do with any of our teachers. We can do anything. Compared to what we've been through, flying a shuttle together is easy. We have a Mekkion after all. Bettina continued apace.
Suppose something goes wrong that we can't solve. What would we do? Where would we go? I don't want to return to that school any more than the rest of you, or stay here and be locked up or peppered with spray, but it's a big mean world out there. We are quite tiny. I mean, what would we do when we got there? I said we can't even land this thing, never mind take off.
Elfrida shrugged.
The shuttle? We could just roam around in space.
Archelaus coughed.
Practically speaking, that would use fuel, and fuel isn't free.
No food.
Asked XXXX hesitantly.
Can I change my mind and stay here?
Bettina sighed.
I hate to say it, but the sensible thing is either to stay here and give ourselves up or fly back to Orpheus. At least we know they need us there. We're not meant to be out in the big world alone. It's scary.
Jake said.
Yes, it is, said
Bettina firmly, her arms all folded. And the grown-ups have won. We just give in and go back to school, after all they've done to us. Robin could feel the chance of freedom slipping away. But why do you think things are going to be different when we finish school? They're always going to throw us out at some point when we get too big and old to be at Orpheus. It's a big scary world whatever age we are, and then we'll be on our own someday anyway. At least this way we don't have to go back to those wretched lessons anymore. And we'll all be together, friends.
You go if you want,
said Bettina.
I'm not stopping you. But I say it's too dangerous. Somebody might get hurt.
Desperate, Robin dropped her voice to a whisper. Please, I can't cope without you all, and one day I'll have to. I can't bear the pain of losing anyone I'm close to ever again. It would break me to be alone once more. Lando reached over to hug her, and before we knew where we were all having a group hug.
We won't leave you, penguins.
Said Hermione.
No matter what they do to us, or where they send us, we're all in this together.
Said Jake.
I'm not scared anymore.
Robin sniffled. Friends for life? Always, smiled Lando. Even if we all live a really long time, asked Robin.
Theoretically, humans would live the shortest time of all of us. You would almost certainly be the first to die off excluding accidents, which would remove that burden of pain from you, in fact.
Said Archelaus, his voice trailing off as we glared at him.
I mean, forever.
Forever and ever and ever.
Smiled Elfrida. She turned to Bettina.
Looks like you're on your own, Bettina.
Come on, argued Robin. As long as we go together, I don't mind what they throw at us. Detention or more homework or deportation or becoming the puppet spokesperson for an illegal brand.
Can I change my mind?
Squeaked Jake.
First thing first.
Said Archelaus.
I vote we try and get as far with our investigation into what's going on as we can. And if no one listens to us, we can have another conversation about what to do later.
How can we find anything out?
Asked Bettina, half giving way.
How do we know where to go?
Mekkion tracked his extendable arms over the navigational controls.
It will be difficult. The ship was clearly designed for Clandusprod. That's why it's so spacious. But it's using an archaic form of Agrosian and don't understand.
Me neither, said Lando. Different cave to mine, I suspect. We all still have our own aboriginal tongues, as well as a more general Clandustrodese. he explained to no one in particular.
I can still sort of understand it based on my inbuilt translator circuits though,
continued Archelaus.
The shuttle is bound to have the coordinates for where it's been flying to recently stored in its computer system somewhere. Well, fly there instead of whoever it was who was planning to go. We won't be stopping them doing whatever it is they're up to. We might find something out. We might even find Wilberworth somewhere there.
Bettina smiled, but was still doubtful.
Can we fly though? We're only children.
She looked at Archelaus.
To be honest,
He said,
after what we've been through already, it would be child's play. A simple case of pressing the right buttons at the right time.
he checked the storage tanks.
It's even fully fueled.
He said,
Look at the other 115 dial. There's enough anti-gravitational drive there to power an entire planet of Doosbury Giants to a pudding planet. Or vice versa.
Let's go there after.
said XXXX.
Then let's leave straight away,
Said Hermione.
quick, before anyone notices us.
Jocks away, yelled Robin.
Jocks, where?
Said XXXX, getting stuck in the doorway. Now we were all inside. We looked around the shuttle and were shocked at just how big and austere and white and clean and clinical it was. 10 control panels were stretched around 10 sides, each with a vast array of buttons. An entire bank of monitors flickered on and off around the sides, full of numbers I couldn't understand. It clearly took an experienced crew a lot of effort to fly this shuttle after doing a lot of homework. Could we pass this first test, this first time, if we tried to fly it ourselves?
Hey, look,
Said XXXX, discovering a lunchbox on the floor.
wasn't this one it was?
Lord, she sniffed it and barked. Yes! That settles it then, said Lando. They've taken her somewhere in the shuttle. We have to get her back. She is our friend.
A shame she hasn't left anything behind.
Said XXXX sadly.
Is there a food replicator machine on board?
Luckily there was, but it wasn't to the Doosbury's taste,
Space cubes. Ugh,
he said, trying the machine.
yuck.
He looked out to the stars.
I hope Paula was enough to eat out there. I miss her.
Come on, leader, said Robin. Let's go, leader. Lead, please. The trouble was, Bettina was paralysed with responsibility. Without her, none of us quite knew what to do. So we all stood around the shuttle controls helplessly.
But it might be dangerous.
She said,
It might blow us sky high. I can't take that risk. I don't think I can lead you. You're on your own. I'll stay to be murdered by my Clandusprod or force-fed toxic weed isn't risky.
asked Hermione.
This way is so final. It's sure to go wrong. We're only children after all.
Snorted Hermione.
I think we've proved by now there's no just about children. We can do anything.
Bettina wasn't convinced, though.
If we stay here, we might get another chance to escape somehow. Anyway, what do you expect me to do about it?
Asked Bettina.
You all know what you're doing. You don't need me.
Robin joined in quietly. You are our leader. I don't remember democratically electing you or anything. It's quite obvious by now that you are. You haven't steered us wrong yet. Well, not often anyway. You always know what to do. We don't. We need you,
3 heads are just the right number for common sense,
said Hermione.
which Habridats don't have a lot of. Not the rest of us, I don't think. You do, though. Even though it also means you talk 3 times more than the rest of us sometimes. Well, maybe.
Said Bettina.
But how do I lead you when I'm not sure it's the right thing to do? I mean, I can't tell you what to do and I'm just a bit doubtful we should be doing it at all.
She finished feebly.
That's true great leadership.
Said Elfrida comfortingly.
You do what you have to for the good of everyone, even when you don't want to do it yourself. That's being fully grown up, that is.
But I don't know if it is the best thing.
Said Bettina helplessly.
For all I know, this thing's been rigged up to kill us all the first time we press a button.
No,
Said Archelaus.
I've been all the way around it. Not only is it safe, it's primed for a quick getaway. Fact.
Well, maybe we won't be able to fly it.
I think I understand the controls in principle.
Said Archelaus.
Of course, that's different to how it's learned in practice, but it shouldn't be too hard. I think I can do it, especially if you all help me.
What if we don't know how to take off?
The takeoff is fine. I can do it allsy. 1, 2, 3, 4-sy.
Grinned Archelaus, much to our relief, though he alarmed us slightly by adding,
It's for landing I can't guarantee.
I can't do it.
stammered Bettina, paralysed by fear.
We won't be passengers this time doing what other people tell us to do, but drivers, responsible for ourselves. I mean, I trust you all to know what you're doing. This is so far out of my comfort zone, it's practically an alien planet on the other side of the universe.
Please,
squeaked Jake.
stop being a scaredy rodent.
Have faith in me.
Said Archers.
I know what I'm doing,
He frowned.
I think.
Oh, come off it.
Said Hermione.
Don't put the dampeners on this now. Even I think this is a good idea. I haven't said that about anything since I first came to Orpheus.
None of us have any guarantees in life, said Robin. But I, for one, would rather die having put faith in my friends than end up being forced to poison quadzillions of people, after which they'll probably bump us off anyway. This is a rare chance of escape. Please, let's take it. Marklo added.
We've been through worse. Where's all that Belobrat confidence and drive gone?
It's one thing knowing I'm the best at doing my homework.
Stuttered the Belobrat, pausing.
It's another matter thinking that we can fly a complicated shuttle without injuring or killing one of us. In the absence of grown-ups, it's up to me to keep you all safe.
Elfrida interrupted.
Never mind us. Just think of all the quadzillions of people out there who might be poisoned if we don't give irrefutable proof as to what's going on. We owe it to them as much as ourselves.
But we're even less good to them if we die. We're the only ones who can stop this at all. Oh, this is an impossible choice and one I didn't want to have to make.
You're not, said Lando. We all make this decision, together. You're not solely responsible, but we do need you, Bettina. Belobrat swallowed, with all three mouths, and looked at Archie.
How confident are you that you can stay on control of the shuttle, Archie?
She said.
I want numbers.
90-something.
He said, although only Mekkion hearing heard him whisper.
Out of a million.
Afterwards.
What are the biggest things that can go wrong?
Explosion on takeoff.
He said.
Asteroid impact in space. Running out of fuel. Being shot down from this planet by some secret weapon. Getting lost and flying too near the Decreetian sun, melting. Crashing on impact. The whole crew collapsing from manning the shuttle. Being confined to the icy waters of space for all eternity.
Yes, said
Bettina.
What is the true likelihood compared to staying here and being recaptured? Statistically now, remember you're a Mekkion.
But we land safely on another planet's surface and we all get to yell, I told you so.
Well, I guess I could live with that.
The Belobrat sweated.
Okay, now I realise why grown-ups make such a big deal out of responsibility. It's scary.
We could hear voices in the background getting closer and closer.
I'm scared of being caught again and being poisoned.
Squeaked Jake.
Get it together, you wuss.
That seemed to shock Bettina out of her senses, and soon she was barking orders.
Right, Archulus, navigational controls. Elfrida, you go with him. XXX, you're the most stable on your feet, so you're in charge of looking out the window and checking that we're going the right way. Hermione, you're in charge of the fuel gauge. Colin, you're in charge of the intercom. No, wait, what am I thinking? Jake, you do that. Colin, you write down notes when Jake calls them out, and take them to Margalo when the computer needs them. Robin, you sit there, hold on to Bocce, and try not to knock anything over.
Can't I do anything? Asked Robin.
It could be dangerous if we touch the wrong button by accident.
Said Archulus not unkindly.
You just sit tight and make sure Botsy sits tight too.
You've got the most important job of all,
Yelled Elfrida.
You're in charge of the soundtrack.
I know just the thing, said Robin, and hit play on a Pineapple MP90 player. Soon the shuttle had lit up to the sound of a Moody Blues singing higher and higher as the shuttle launched off to the sound of 10 million butterfly sneezes. They were replaced by the joyous bounce of alien contact heard on the bird's CTA 102, named for a pulsing quasar discovered by early Earth telescopes pointed looking for a sign of interstellar contact. As it happened, they just happened to be looking the wrong way. Soon the strains of Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 were flying round the cabin. Now, this is how it's meant to be played, Robin said, with anger and feeling.
That will teach him to try and keep us safely ensconced back in the classroom.
Yelled Bettina.
Right, are we pointed in the right direction? Thrusters on, and let's go.
The shuttle fired up. Is that it? Yelled Robin. Are we finally free?
Launch!
Yelled Bettina, just as Jack the Clandusprod and a whole gang of assorted people from all sorts of species ran after us and tried to get us back down, many often falling over as the rocket took off. It juddered and shuddered and shook and rolled and pitched and hawed and leered and very nearly crashed. But somehow, thanks to archers shouting out tiny course corrections to everyone, the shuttle regained its momentum and powered upwards, shooting giant bursts of flame into the ground. Jack the Clandusprod ended up with a singed tail, while another Clandusprod's hat burst into flames and had to be extinguished. Despite the sheer noise and momentum of the rocket and the noise-proof glass, I could swear I heard them yelling, "Goodbye, my shuttle!" But it was too late, and so we took off into the night sky, outstripping the country of Decreeta, and the continent of Decreeta, and the planet of Decreeta, and the solar system of Decreeta, as we shot on to goodness knows where, to the soundtrack of Pink Floyd yelling on our behalf for adults everywhere to leave us alone, the guitar solo that represented true freedom ringing out just as we broke into orbit and started stabilising our flight into space. Robin's Pineapple Player then moved on to Pink Floyd's Echoes, the 24-minute version performed by the band in 1972 live in the Roman remains of a volcanic eruption in Pompeii, starting off a tiny dot and slowly growing larger and larger until it was fully roaring in our ears, our journey feeling tied to 3 separate fixed points in 5,000 years of progress, the whole of history leading us to this point in time, as we 11 beings, so recently strangers, found ourselves pulling together to try our best to come together and answering the echoing, mystical cries of our ancestors as we exploded into the air, leaving our coral caves behind us. The song concluded, and the MP90 clicked on to Jack the Lads lying on the water. The 11 of us, plus Blotchy, danced and parted, as if we too were celebrating the end of our childhood, without quite knowing what was coming next, the song ending in a blitz of cacophonous percussion. Then the ice-cold darkness of space seemed to spill through the cabin. Without a beat, the MP90 moved on to the Hollies B-side, not that way at all, as we learned to put away childish things and certainties to a crazed backing beat of rocking horses, toy soldiers, marimbas and psychedelic guitars, as suddenly we felt a pang of sorrow, decided to be young and live our childhoods over again. Finally we ended up in the isolated groove of the Hollies Satellite 3, and we found ourselves all alone, adrift, old and rusting over, abandoned in space and doomed to forever orbit a sun that no longer shone on us, anachronistic, isolated and vulnerable. Was this then the journey of coming of age, of becoming adult, summed up for us by the randomness of Earth technology, of losing the warmth we were born into and replacing it with a cold shell of adulthood? A stillness fell over the shuttle as we contemplated our mortality, and the fact that while childhood seemed to last forever, adulthood already promised to be over in the blink of an eye. Finally the player clicked off, just as we were fully out of Decreeta's orbit and safely away in space. Quietly, Archulus spoke up.
I think we're out of harm's way for now. Take a breather, everyone, on the forward side of the shuttle. Everyone else on the aft side. Keep working for now.
Which one am I?
Asked Margalo.
You're on the dark side of the shuttle.
Hermione laughed and got a look back.
Half means right, people.
Explained Archulus.
Well, said
Bettina.
I'm always right. Yet I'm in the middle.
I'm always left.
Explained Elfrida.
Politically, it's the only way to be.
Fine.
Sighed the Mekkion.
Port and starboard then. You're not a port, but you are starboard.
I'm too young to drink.
Said XXXX. Gotta be starboard.
I can see stars out of both sides of the shuttle.
Said Jake. Archulus, irritated, stuck his 2 robotic limbs out as far as they would go.
Everyone on this side.
He said, shaking one.
It's forward. I'm port. I'm left. Everyone this side.
He added as he shook them again.
It's aft. All starboard. All right. For the record, before you say it, you're all daft.
He went back to his word, muttering.
What a school's coming to today when we don't even teach basic navigation. Dear me.
Robin had spent the past few minutes staring out of the window. Does anyone else feel as if they are leaving their childhood behind, as well as the planet? She asked. All around her 10 figures moved around the cockpit, wordlessly as one. No one seemed to be listening to her, so instead she just stayed where she was, staring out the window and fingering the glass. At last, she sighed, we are truly free. And even if this is death, then this is a freedom of sorts, for it is one that we choose.
Very Mrasianart of you,
said Elfrida, who being aft side up had finally finished the side of the controls, was awaiting further instructions.
I didn't know humans had a spiritual side.
Oh yes, said Robin, but we tend to keep it for special occasions like this one. Most of the time we forget how small we are. I guess because we're such a planet-bound species. But look at that view. How could anyone being not feel spiritual, looking at all those stars twinkling away and enticing us on? There could be anything out there.
Careful,
Smiled Elfrida.
you'll put me out of a job.
She joined Robin at the window.
Do you know, I agree with you. I always feel my spiritualism kicking right back in.
About that, what happened, Elfrida? Asked the human. She smiled sadly.
No, too many bad things happening, I guess. It's hard to maintain faith in a cosmic ordered universe when things keep going wrong. Not just for me, I mean, for everybody.
She looked out at the stars.
For instance, you wouldn't believe, looking at the stars just now, how many people from all species are struggling out there. How many are suffering needlessly, in pain, in poverty, in war. I really hope that 350 years after first making interstellar contact, somehow our species would have eradicated all misery and pain and prejudice. We would be living together as one. Yet still here we are, struggling to save the universe, with no one believing a word of what we say, and good people suffering because of us saying it.
All that is true, said Robin, slowly, ruminating the words before speaking them. But aren't we better off than we were back in the 21st century? I mean, just being alongside each other has helped us a little bit. The more time we spend with each other, the more we grow.
We're all still children, Mary said.
Elfrida.
Even the adults. Sometimes I just lose faith in the idea I was brought up on, of a guided cosmic plan that will all come right in the end. It hasn't for so many centuries now. What else have we got to go through in order for things to be all right for everyone? I mean, where are those beings in the afterlife for an endurance? And what are they doing? It feels sometimes like the whole universe is a mess. Somehow looking down at it from up here, it feels that it should be really simple to put right.
Robin put her arm on the Mrasianart's wing. I think it's up to us all to grow into adults and put it right ourselves, she said. Sometimes adversity is the best teacher. It's how we become better over time. Just look at how fast we've evolved the past 4 centuries.
Yes, but change moves so slowly, too slowly for some. How many chances are we going to have when we mess up? And those wars I didn't think we'd ever have again. And that's just on Earth. Didn't even mean we want intergalactic President Elrond for the Agrosians. Could we have someone direct us? Give us some clues. Give us a bit of peace for a time.
I know what you mean, but I'm afraid it doesn't work like that, said Robin sadly. The problem is that even when we're given clues, because we have free will, those of us in power often end up squandering it and making the wrong choices.
So why aren't they stopped?
Asked Elfrida.
Why do the bad guys always end up winning and asking the good guys from power? Why do bad people keep rising from nothing? I mean, just look at that Glabdiharbit peace president. How did he get in so soon after Elrond and Geraldine? Perhaps because we're meant to learn to stop it ourselves and grow to be the good guys instead of having others solve everything for us.
I don't know, said Robin, and I miss being a child and not having to think about it all. I guess that's what it means to grow up too. Elfrida laughed.
Oh, not Mrasianart. Existentialism and cosmic dread was the first class I took, alongside learning the 46-lettered Mrasian alphabet and how to count up to 1100.
Really, laughed Robin. Your school was very different to mine. She paused. It sounds from what you've all told me as if everyone's school was different to mine before Orpheus, as they were different to each other's. And yet here we are, working together, learning from each other. That has to count for something, surely. I mean, 350 years ago we didn't have that. We were all strangers, wary of each other. And now we work together. Well, some of us anyway, some of the time. Elfrida smiled.
I guess that's a start.
Robin continued. Oh, that's only the start. It will get better. I fully believe that. Just look at all the teething problems we've had the past few decades that we somehow fixed that seemed insurmountable a few centuries ago. All the questions of whether other worlds were out for our resources and aiming rockets at each other, the prejudice against hybrid species and the need to work together when we're all so different. Yet still we did it. We came through it all, collectively. We're better than we were, if not yet as good and brave and strong and united as we will be.
I know,
said Elfrida.
It's just that this has been a dark few decades since Province. It feels as if we slipped backwards, that we're heading back to the dark days again. Have this been the days of peace after insurgents or Province? I know that I could trust people not to fall into the trap of taking red weed. But now, there are too many people doing the wrong things for the wrong reasons, and we all suffer because of it, for the senseless actions of a few bad people.
You're right, said Robin. It only takes one person in power with a mad scheme to make things worse for the rest of us. And I don't know what to tell you to make it any better. But I do know that the bad guys always get defeated sooner or later. if not in their lifetime, then their life's work gets torn up by who comes next, and common sense prevails eventually. Every time something bad happens, more and more ordinary people like you and me stand up, take a stand, say no, and try to stop it. And even though it comes and goes in waves, who wins between good and bad? I know one day the tipping point will come when the good will win out, and nobody will ever do anything bad on purpose again. Or have I been listening to this Pink Floyd song for too long? She laughed.
Maybe we should all listen a bit harder,
said Elfrida.
Thank you, Penguin. I do feel better now. You're pretty wise, you know. Not just for a human, for a Mrasianart too.
Robin smiled. I'm still genetically a clumsy oaf, though. And that's okay. Part of learning is realising our limitations as well as what we can do, and risking things for other good people when we can. XXX, who was also aft, climbed out of his seatbelt and walked to us.
Do you think Will will be alright?
He asked.
I don't know,
said Elfrida, as comfortingly as she could.
It looks as if they took her alive, at least. Maybe they were trying to get her to record an advert recommending red weed for athletes.
XXXX reached his hand out to the shuttle window and pressed it against the glass, hard.
Wherever you are will work,
he said.
May you be full and never hungry. You too, Squash.
Robin and Elfrida put their hands and wings over his, and now that the shuttle was more fully in control, I did the same with my tail. Together the four of us stayed staring out of the window as we rolled on through the cosmic darkness towards Eleron's pinpricks of hope that fluttered on and off in the sky. By now the shuttle was moving on its own and didn't need much supervision, so Bettina called us to a meeting. She looked every bit the impervious leader again as she swivelled in her chair.
Well done, team,
she said, confidence restored.
As your brave and courageous leader, I congratulate you on following my orders impeccably.
My orders,
said Archelaus.
Well,
said Bettina,
you told me what to say, and I said it. That still makes them my orders.
No, it doesn't,
said Archelaus.
It makes you a parrot. Fact.
All right,
said Bettina.
You'll be assistant to the brave and courageous leader. Better?
Not much,
said Archelaus.
How about the brave and courageous leader's even braver and more courageous assistant?
Fine,
sighed Bettina.
We're all brave and courageous, just as long as we all agree that I was the most brave and courageous. Anyway,
she said firmly, overriding all the protests that started after she said this.
I'm pleased to say that the shuttle seems fully in control now. Wherever we are going is a long way away according to the navigational controls, so we probably won't make it there before morning, wherever there happens to be. Clearly we need somebody to be on watch while we fly, and Archie seems to think the flight will take 10 hours. So I propose that we divide into pairs and take it in turns to do 5 2-hour shifts, with 8 hours off in between. The same pairs as last time, all right?
We all nodded, more than pleased at the return of a brasher and arrogant, yet more decisive Bettina we all knew. For now.
Good,
she said.
Hermione and I will be on last shift. And whoever said it's because we need the most beauty sleep gets funked,
added Hermione.
The first shift will be by Elfrida and Archelaus, starting now.
The Belobrat continued as the Mekkion and Mrasianart moved to their respective sides of the shuttle.
Any red lights, beeping noises, or changes in trajectory wake me or Archie, or both of us up immediately. In the meantime, we all desperately need some normality. We still have a little of our childhoods left until we land on this scary, mysterious, strange planet. So what about a story?
Story!
Said Jake, rolling himself into a ball on Bettina's lap.
My turn tonight,
said Bettina, staring Archelaus out as he consulted his rota.
I want to tell you all the story about the Hanging Gardens of Belobrat. One time in our ancient past, long before the days of space travel, there was a king called Zor who ruled over the whole of Hellesphere to the west, and a king called Zam who ruled over the east.
Forward and aft,
said Archelaus.
or port and starboard if you like.
Oh, not that again,
sighed Bettina. Who's telling this story?
Anyway, they didn't like each other, so they built a giant wall. It reached up as far as the universe and was twice as ugly. Though both sides wanted it, they also both thought the other side should pay for it, and a war broke out because it wasn't being built. To make the war easier to fight, the generals then both built their own walls, which happened to meet in the middle. The war still raged on, even though both sides had got what they wanted in the first place. It was a very stupid war, as wars go, and soon the people of both sides were impoverished and hungry because all their money was being spent on the walls and on ammunition. This was totally useless because the walls were too high to shoot over. They both continued to stockpile weapons, though, because they feared that if they didn't, the other side would build up a pile higher than their own and conquer them. which was stupid because their own ignorance and meanness killed off a lot more of their own people than the actual war ever could. Anyway, there were complaints from the people of both sides of the planet that the war was too ugly and that it spoiled the wonderful countryside of both places. So, independently, both kings decided to create a walled garden full of lovely luscious green plants.
What sort?
Asked XXXX.
Are they tasty?
Ever so tasty,
Said Bettina.
Soon people would travel from all over the kingdom just to get a taste of the plants on their side of the wall. Before long, though, both sides began to boast about how the plants on their side of the wall were better, tastier, crunchier, more nutritious. The people of both sides began to complain to their king that the other side was getting tastier food to eat, or they were nearly starving. With Zoran's decree that a curtain of iron be put up so that neither side could see the other, yet still the west and east sides could hear each other suffering. The kings both forbade their people to have anything to do with anyone who lived on the other side. The people became so hungry and desperate, and were so incensed by the propaganda being forced on them, that they found a way to get through the walls and over to the other side. Zor's people were tunnellers and dug all the way underneath the wall. Zam's people were climbers, and they scrambled over the top of the wall. To their shock, both sides discovered that the other side had plants in their hanging gardens that were identical to their own, but the other side didn't have inferior food at all, with the exact same thing as their own people. Shocked at all the time wasted, when both sides were the same, they finally agreed to club together and overthrow their awful leaders, and live happily ever after. Until somebody invented the garden gnome and another war of envy started, but that's another story, for another flight,
said Bettina, looking round and noticing how sleepy everyone was.
Well, good night everyone. Good job today. Don't let the space bugs bite,
said Jake, jumping off Bettina's lap and rolling into a ball.
They sound scary.
but I'm a better storyteller than even I thought,
Laughed Bettina,
because I've just this moment made them up.
snuggling down into a huddle in the middle of the shovel. I went to sleep pressed against Robin's knee, and XXXX's tummy, which seemed to go up and down in rhythm to the shuttle as it danced its way across the stars to Sprod knows where, celebrating having survived another day of danger on adulting. But how long would the luck of 11 children last in an adult world, especially on a rocket heading to goodness knows where?